Chapter 963, Expel. Chapter 963, Expel. Carlos escaped from Shiyang's god body. He was so worried and uneasy. The ice-blue crystals surrounding his soul gradually cracked. Blue electric beams struck over like snakes, trying to intrude his soul. Just like Kristen, Carlos had no place to go. The two souls surrounded Shiyang, preparing to attack his soul and occupy his body. What happened? What are you doing? Kristen communicated with him via soul messaging. You had subdued his soul. Why did you fly out? You mother-f***ka. It's because of you. Carlos thundered, if you didn't mess things up, how could that kid get rid of my soulbind? Now, we're over. None of us can get in there again. While the two souls were communicating, more blue electric beams shot towards them. They were as big as ropes, slowly tying their souls up. Their blue crystals couldn't help it anymore. They could explode at any moment. That blue crystals needed a flesh body to promote its effect the most. Without a body to protect the crystals, when they were exposed, they couldn't resist for a long time. Carlos was afraid of Shiyang. He pondered, then said, I've just used up a lot of energy. I need a break. You go for it. You intrude his sea of consciousness. As long as you can subdue his soul, we can take over his body. Carlos didn't know how strong Shiyang was, but he did know that Shiyang's soul was somehow marvelous. The energy released by the latter's soul had terrified him badly. He wanted Kristen to scout out Shiyang's special powers. Kristen didn't doubt him. He figured that the other had really consumed a lot of his soul energy. As he didn't know how Shiyang's soul was, he hesitated for a while before forcefully entering Shiyang's sea of consciousness. Kristen made up his mind. He immediately turned into a bunch of cold light, aiming at Shiyang's forehead and trying to get into his sea of consciousness. Boom, boom, boom. Shiyang's god body had the cracking resounding from his bones. Under the power of the immortal demon blood, his damaged flesh and vessels were healed. A garnet halo glowed from his body. Under the effect of the immortal demon blood, his god body transformed quickly. Sharp and pointy barbs emerged from Shiyang's shoulders, elbows, and knees. They jutted out as if they grew directly from his bones, giving him a ferocious look. His transformation was aimed towards the perfect form of warriors of the immortal demon tribe, and his blood chi became thicker in his body. Blood chi and essence chi were surging inside Shiyang, which both threatened and thrilled Kristen. He suddenly recognized that with this level of intensity, Shiyang's body could hold both Carlos and himself to get into the center of the bubble. Kristen didn't hesitate anymore. Swoosh! A big beam of cold light with the icy aura drilled into Shiyang's glabella, trying to get into his sea of consciousness. Sizzle! 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 Scarlet flames burst out of Shiyang's eyes, covering his face. As soon as Kristen touched this flame, he faced a lethal attack. His soul energy was melted, dissolving rapidly. The mournful screeching arose from deep inside his soul. Kristen's cold and stern face became blurry, as if making clear facial features was now really difficult for him. It was just a short moment, but Kristen was hurt severely, which had even affected his soul's foundation. At this moment, there was no chaotic current of space energy. Kristen and Carlos couldn't use external forces to attack Shiyang. They could only use their soul energy. The two of them were powerful existences which were just half a step away from the incipient god realm. Their souls were indeed intimidating. Although they couldn't release their energy at the maximum rate since they didn't have a soul altar, ordinary warriors would never gain the upper hand in a soul fight with them. However, Shiyang's soul was mysterious and unpredictable due to the other soul that had fused with the origin. He could use the origin to summon the heaven flames easily. The heaven flames had an extremely fiery power, which was enough to destroy the souls. Kristen couldn't endure such a force, so he was hurt badly. Shiyang chuckled. He had completed his transformation, and his immortal demon form was deemed perfect. He suddenly recognized that in this magical area, as long as his soul wasn't ambushed, he could still maintain his consciousness. Those two souls couldn't capture him. Outside the bubbles were many disorderly streamers. Carlos and Kristen knew how to use the power of those streamers to attack him. Thus, He kept calm and didn't start the fight with the two souls there. However, in the outer layer of the bubble, there wasn't a single beam of streamer for them to use. In other words, Chrisen and Carlos couldn't use the streamers to attack his god body. Unless they attacked his sea of consciousness and occupied his soul altar, enchanting his consciousness, he didn't need to be afraid of them. Understanding this, Shi Yang smiled happily. Glancing at Chrisen, who was moving restlessly, and Carlos, who was so frightened, Shi Yang grinned while mocking. You two, I think you've just wasted your efforts here. Damn it. You mother-f***ka. You plotted against me. Chrisen was burnt, and he got seriously hurt. The blue crystals around him exploded one by one. His soul felt so uneasy, his situation getting worse. Chrisen knew Carlos had fooled him. He knew Carlos was forcefully expelled from Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. As Carlos didn't know how strong Shi Yang was, he used Chrisen as a shield to conduct a test. We don't have much time left. Carlos thundered. Chrisen was shaken. He knew they were birds on the same wire. If they couldn't take over Shi Yang's soul altar, they would be doomed here. The two of them exchanged looks. They hesitated, preparing for the second murderous attack. Shi Yang glared at them, not saying anything. His god body in the immortal demon form moved like a sharp weapon that could pierce through everything. He broke out of the blue area, rocketing in another direction. Evil Dragon McGee was there. The 2,000 meters long evil dragon was struggling hard in pain. Blood sprayed out of its body like a shower of rain. McGee's scaled body had so many blue electric beams wound around it, squeezing into his flesh as if they wanted to grind his giant body, killing him slowly in a nasty way. Ibaka had moved inside McGee. Blue crystals covered the dragon's giant head. Those crystals could generate a blue liquid that could shield the dragon's head from the attack of the blue electric arc. The real function of the ice blue crystal was to protect the soul from external attack with a premise that this soul had a body. Ibaka used those crystals to cover McGee's head to protect his own soul hiding inside the head from the electric beams. Although Carlos and Chrisen also had the same kind of blue crystals, without a body, they couldn't protect themselves. Those crystals were melted, broken almost completely. At the moment Shi Yang found McGee, he felt the thick blue electric beams start to seep towards his soul altar. Chrisen and Carlos hurried to follow him from the other corner, their faces horrible. Shi Yang halted. His face looked cold as he was searching for something in the void. A starlight arm that dragged a brilliant tail of over 1,000 meters grabbed some crystals, pulling them to him. Those crystals belonged to Chrisen. As they were hovering around his soul, Shi Yang had taken them. Boom, boom, boom. The blue crystals stuck on Shi Yang's head like some medicinal patches. He looked like he was wearing a bizarre crystal helmet. The moment the crystals covered his head, he could feel beams of electric discharge, which were trying to attack his soul altar, retreat quietly. They didn't swarm over his soul altar anymore. At this moment, his soul was safe. It worked. Shi Yang grinned, coldly looking at Chrisen, who was enraged. You don't like it? Oh yeah, you can try to invade my soul one more time. I will make your soul perish. Chrisen discolored in fright. Carlos was also scared. He was baffled, looking at Shi Yang. He was hesitant whether he could continue attacking the other or not. Break! Shi Yang shouted as a flame flew out of his left eye. A fiery light ball shot out of his eyes, moving like a meteor towards McGee's head. The flaming light ball suddenly changed, turning into many smaller flames that entered the evil dragon's head. Those flames had the aura of the heaven flames, the most scorching flames that could burn down all kinds of souls and entities. Ibaka screamed, flying away from McGee's head. He knew that the origin flame could destroy both his and McGee's soul. He thought that Shi Yang wanted to kill him and McGee at the same time. He didn't dare to linger. Seeing the incoming danger, Ibaka immediately flew away, avoiding the burning flame. With wild schemes, those three souls had dragged Shi Yang, Evil Dragon McGee, and the Ice Woman here in an attempt to take their body to enter some place. Up till now, the Ice Woman had perished, and her soul and body had both vanished. Shi Yang and McGee were still safe, relatively. At this moment, the three souls were forcefully expelled. They didn't have a flesh host anymore. The three souls formed a formation, silently surrounding Shi Yang. Their clear or blurry faces were filled with bone-deep resentment. "You're just three soul remnants. You can use the space streamers to attack us. But, in this place, you're just three ghosts. Without a god body or a soul altar, you can't use the power Upanishad. Dare to fight with me? Do you want to die?" Shi Yang was calm and unafraid, just talking coldly and harshly. "If you retreat now, you can escape this place before your soul vanishes. If you want to attack me, haha, don't blame me for striking at your soul until you have nothing left." Evil Dragon McGee panted hard. He was still bleeding. He seemed to be enduring a terrible pain. However, his big eyes, which were filled with resentment, were gazing at Embark without blinking. "I will remember you. If I survive this time, I will show you how intimidating our evil dragon tribe can be." Embark's face became chilled. Chapter 964. I'm sure I'll handle it. Chapter 964. I'm sure I'll handle it. Then, I have to kill you here. Deep in Embark's eyes was a chilling cold intent. He shouted, then attempted to attack one more time. Carlos and Kristen were on his left and right. Hearing him, they screamed hurriedly. "Be watchful of that kid. He's not easy to deal with. Don't get into his soul." Embark studied Shi Yang. "His soul alters strange. It's tough. We've had bad experiences," Kristen said. "We must kill him first, and we have to unite to do so." "Embark, don't be impetuous." Embark was baffled. He turned to Carlos, who nodded with a cold and dark expression. "All right. We'll kill this brat first." Embark was cold. He hated Shi Yang, and wanted to kill him out there. If Carlos hadn't stopped him, Shi Yang would have been executed already. From Kristen and Carlos' attitude, Embark knew Shi Yang wasn't ordinary. He didn't dare to act rashly, exchanging looks with the other two. They planned to join hands to knock down Shi Yang's soul altar first. "You should leave." Shi Yang suddenly turned to McGee, who was still bleeding. He hesitated for a while and then muttered, "If you can endure it furthermore, will you move forward to see what's in the center of this place?" Evil Dragon McGee was surprised. He didn't know why Shi Yang had rescued him many times. He could explain that Shi Yang had helped him when they were out there because he wanted to use his power to deal with Embark's team. However, when they had got inside the membrane of the bubble, Shi Yang seemed unafraid of the dangers. Apparently, he wasn't afraid of Embark's team. McGee didn't know why Shi Yang wanted more troubles to rescue him. "Just remember, you owe me this favor," Shi Yang chuckled. "Move, I'll handle it. I'll stop them. I'm sure they won't trouble you more." Shi Yang had his calculation. From the woman of the Ice Clan, Shi Yang knew McGee was the youngest son of the Evil Dragon Tribe's patriarch. In Agate Star area, the Evil Dragon Tribe was famous for its intimidation. It was the strongest branch of the Monster Clan, whose position was crucial. He wanted to take advantages of its authority. As time flew hurriedly, it could be dozens of years passing by. Shi Yang didn't know if his friends and family in the old Orchid Star had been suffering from the disaster or not. However, he was sure that they couldn't live well in the Far West region even if they had survived that catastrophe. No matter what happened, he would never forget the resentment. Anyway, the Agate Star area was different from the other star areas. With only himself alone, he couldn't raise any storm in the Far West region. If he could have a powerful support, he wouldn't need to worry too much. He could find shelter for those who had survived. Since the Evil Dragon Tribe was a mighty force, it could be a force he could count on. If he had a good relationship with McGee by helping him escape this area, it would be easier for him in the future. Shi Yang was trying to create a good relationship with McGee. "Are you sure you can handle it?" McGee didn't believe in him. "With only your power, are you sure you can deal with the three of them?" "Are you sure?" "Don't worry, just go. I'll help you resolve them. Don't worry. I'm sure I can handle it." Shi Yang smiled, comforting the dragon. "You monsters don't know how to engage in soul fighting. You can't help me with anything even if you stay. You'd better leave early. Even if I die here, as long as you can escape, you will take revenge for me later. What do you think?" McGee wasn't an idiot. Listening to Shi Yang's explanation, he quieted down. Suddenly, he nodded and said nothing more before leaving. Embark's team didn't attribute much value to McGee. In their eyes, even if the monster clan was strong, they were of no use in this unique space. As long as they could clean Shi Yang up, they would have plenty of time to kill McGee. Thus, none of them prevented him from leaving. They all focused on Shi Yang. However, the direction evil dragon McGee had taken made them chilled. McGee didn't run away. He followed Shi Yang's words, and he was confident of his tenacious body. The dragon rocketed towards the center of the bubble. He wanted to see what the three souls had been yearning for in that area. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Clusters of flames flew out of Shi Yang's eyes. Those flames were scarlet, orange-red, and gold. They looked like clusters of clouds, bobbing by Shi Yang. They made the place look like the morning haze that was vividly alive. Those flames were the power of the heaven flames originated from the other soul. It was using the power of the flames to create a sea of fire. Shi Yang stayed in the center of the fire sea. He was busy but still deliberate, looking at the three souls while grinning. Come try me. Not many kinds of energies could damage the soul. Shi Yang didn't know if his space power and star power could do it or not, but he was sure that the scorching flame could exhaust the soul. It could even burn the soul, making it turn into nothingness. Indeed, when he used his other soul as the source of energy to diffuse clusters of flame continually, the three souls became hesitant. The three faces of the three souls became heavy. They slowly moved forward, carefully touching the flame. None of them dared to rush. Shi Yang released a flow of soul consciousness. Boom, boom. The blue electric discharge immediately rushed towards Shi Yang's soul consciousness. Shortly, it was smashed down, sending numbness to Shi Yang's brain. With cold eyes, Shi Yang quieted down. He didn't release soul consciousness from his main soul anymore. Eventually, he knew whichever soul consciousness it would be destroyed in this area. However, the flaming sea created by the heaven flames of the other soul wasn't affected. Clusters of flames connected each other, creating a vast sea of fire with Shi Yang in the center. The haughty Embarker was the first one touching the heaven flame as he came to a red-orange flame. His clear facial features blurred, as if it were twisted by the wind, making him look terrible. Embarker was frightened. He immediately moved away from the flaming sea, his face grim while looking at Carlos and Kristen. This brat's tough, indeed. Embarker gritted his teeth while glaring at Carlos maliciously. We should have killed him when we were out there. Now we don't have the space streamers to use. Tell me, what should we do? The three souls hovered by the edge of the fire sea, trying to find a slit to jump in. However, after moving around for several times, they hadn't found any entrance. The heaven flames generated by the origin were fatal to their souls. Thus, they didn't dare to act rashly. The blue crystals around the three souls had bigger cracks under the power of the blue electric arcs. Embarker's team became more restless. They knew they couldn't linger anymore. They knew what kind of tremendous pressure they would have to bear after their crystals were gone. Get lost, Shi Yang smiled mockingly, his voice unfriendly. If you don't dare to risk your lives and kill me, what can you ghostly souls do? Ha, your defense will be gone soon. I can see that your doomsday is near. The immortal demon blood was being combusted in his body. He was using up his blood rapidly. Shi Yang was still maintaining the immortal demon form. It was perfect, but it was consuming a lot of energy as the electric beams were attacking each corner of his body. In this area, the god body would be eroded with every passing minute. The hazy electric beams were like sharp swords madly destroying his god body. If his body weren't strong enough, his condition would be much terrible. He would have been dissolved, turning into nothingness. The massive energy stored in the immortal demon blood was accumulated with Shi Yang's great efforts. Each drop of immortal demon blood was pretty precious. In this place, Shi Yang was consuming immortal demon blood every second. If it weren't necessary, Shi Yang didn't want to waste his energy to maintain the immortal demon form. It was a torture to his body anyways. Seems like he can't endure any longer. Carlos' eyes brightened, grinning. Even if his god body could be more tenacious, he couldn't use it forever. Just like us, he's consuming energy rapidly. Once he can't endure it anymore, his consciousness would be affected. We will have our chance, right? Ibaka and Kristen were shaken, nodding quietly. Oh, you don't treasure your lives. Shiyang felt funny. Initially, he didn't want to waste much energy. Anyway, the other three, the ones that were like the arrow at the end of its flight, thought that he would soon finish the energy of his god body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Surging flames gushed out of Shiyang's eyes. The fiery power of the flame was scorching hot, covering the entire place as if it wanted to burn down everything else. The clusters of flame hovering around his body were revived by his other soul. They formed 3 different rivers, extending towards Carlos, Ibaka, and Kristen respectively. He attacked proactively. Carlos's team discolored in fright. They were helplessly frightened. As they were scared of the fire sea, they hurried to move away. Shiyang laughed coldly while his god body gradually disappeared into the fire sea. However, the 3 flaming rivers were still moving as though they had eyes, following the 3 souls closely. Ibaka and the other 2 could only run for their lives. Boom, boom, boom. Their blue crystals all exploded. While the fire rivers were chasing after them, their souls were exposed. The blue electric beams seized the chance and entangled them all. Their thought of killing Shiyang vanished. They were way too frightened, returning using the old track. They didn't dare to enter further. The 3 of them were filled with sorrow and despair. Their chance, which could appear only after several thousand years, was available to the others. They were so bitter that they wanted to vomit blood. The electric beams moved like sharp knives in their souls, as a drilling heart pain flooded their soul. Kristen faced the worst damage. Shortly after, he halted as his soul was weakened. Under the blue electric beams, his life seal scattered and he perished quickly. Ibaka and Carlos were still flying hastily. They wanted to get rid of this dangerous place while their soul energy was draining rapidly. Shiyang had retrieved the heaven flame energy, flying at his max speed towards the deeper place inside the bubble. He wanted to see what was in there, what was worth the other 3 to spend so much efforts for thousands of years. Chapter 965, Soul Refining Pool. Chapter 965, Soul Refining Pool. Inside that massive blue bubble was a brilliant world. It had clusters of silky, thread-like space streamers that gathered in an immense blue pool at the center. The pool situated in the center of this strange world floated in the void. It continually radiated waves of immense blue light. This kind of blue light seemed to have magic that could soothe the soul and make people calm and relaxed. Shiyang and evil dragon McGee weren't in good condition. McGee had many wounds on his body. Half of the scales on his dragon body had fallen off. He was moving in the void as if he was at his last moments of life. Sometimes, he gathered great effort to wave his tail. Shiyang was a little better. He had resumed his normal condition after consuming half of the immortal demon blood in his body. However, he wasn't damaged as the demon blood had healed him. His body was still vigorously firm. Compared to evil dragon McGee, his damage taken was trivial. McGee looked at him as if he was looking at a monster. His huge eyes gazed at Shiyang without blinking. Dude, you look alright. Your body is much more tenacious than mine, isn't it? Shiyang beamed a reluctant smile. It has been so many years and I haven't dared to relax. The efforts I've made in training my body wouldn't be less than your efforts. Do you know the immortal demon tribe? Evil dragon McGee's eyes brightened. He suddenly laughed. You are from the same tribe as Blood Devil? Impossible. Haha, we are predestined indeed. You know Blood Devil? Shiyang was surprised. Of course. McGee nodded continually, smiling cheerfully. Blood Devil has a good relationship with my father. The Monster Clan and the Demon Clans are allies in Agate Star area. Blood Devil's territory isn't far from our evil dragon tribe's land. I've been there before. Seems like we're predestined. Listening to him, Shiyang also smiled. Are you Blood Devil's illegitimate son? Evil dragon McGee's eyes twinkled. He spoke with surprise. Not possible though. I didn't know that Blood Devil still had some relatives. Yeah, bro. How are you related to Blood Devil? Why have I never heard about your title before? Pausing for a while, Miggy cried again. No wonder why Blood Devil has an extremely tenacious body. Although I've never met him before, I know that his body isn't less tough than my father's. No wonder why you were able to get in here. Do you know where we are? Shiyang contemplated for a while and then asked. How can we get out of here? I don't know, Miggy beamed a forced smile. I've brought us here unconsciously. Ibaka captured me. I got here from a forbidden land of the evil dragon tribe. It's a space crack of agate star area. It doesn't have Earth and heaven energy, solar, moon, or any other stars. I only know the place I got through to get to this place. We can start from there. Shiyang quieted down, feeling hopeless. Splash, splash. As they heard the water splashing, the immense blue pool in the center was releasing waves of blue light. Those ripples calmed down Shiyang's soul, immersing him in a magical sea, which gave him an indescribably pleasant feeling. He couldn't help but look at the immense blue pool. His eyes concentrated, asking. That blue pool seems to have a magical power that can clean the soul. Do you feel the same thing? Yes, I do. Miggy nodded continually. I feel so comfortable under those blue ripples. My soul feels cozy and refreshed. It feels like my soul is washed up. It's wonderful. I think it has something marvelous out there. Should we check it out? How are your wounds? There is no problem. As soon as I have enough energy to recover, my wounds will heal soon. The recovery ability of the evil dragon is well known in the entire agate star area. Okay. We'll get to that pool and check it out. Shiyang and evil dragon Miggy sauntered towards the hazy blue pool. The closer they got to the pool, the more pacific and refreshed they felt in their souls. This level of soul satisfaction was hard to describe. Waves of blue light rippling from the pool had the marvelous power of cleaning the soul. Shiyang felt all impurities in his mind and soul clean up. He felt very relaxed and revitalized. Soul refining fluid. A weak but surprised voice reached Shiyang from the blood vein ring. The ring spirit seemed to be very happy. You found a place where there is soul refining fluid. The ring spirit sounded thrilled. However, its soul messaging was paused as if talking to Shiyang had consumed a lot of its energy. Soul refining fluid? What's that? Shiyang knitted his brows. He hesitated for a while before asking, how are you? Still fusing the memory. I need more time and more energy. The ring spirit replied fast. Then, it explained excitedly. The soul refining fluid is the god water used to refine the soul altar. It's marvelous, indeed. It's the most precious treasure in the big star areas. This is original incipient grade water. It's so magical. Explain simply. Okay. When a warrior creates the soul altar, his soul altar is contaminated. As his power was increasing along with his understanding of power Upanishad and training of the soul altar will become more impure. In fact, the cultivation of the soul altar has the same method and principles with the cultivation of the god body. We need to discharge the impurities to maintain the crystal clear soul altar. The clearer the soul altar is, the better and deeper the warrior can understand his power Upanishad. It's a big help to the soul, indeed. Soul refining fluid is a divine water that can clean your soul altar. It will help you discharge the impurities and refine the soul altar. It can make your soul altar crystal clear. The transparent soul altar that doesn't have contaminants is the basis to break through to incipient God realm. Only when you get your soul crystal clear will you see the mysteries that help you enter incipient God realm. When a warrior reaches peak of ethereal God realm, he needs to clean his soul to have a successive breakthrough. To you, the soul refining fluid is more useful. I intended to tell you to use your best to collect soul refining fluid. You need to clean your soul altar once. As you've cultivated devouring power Upanishad from my master, you can quench your soul altar many times. However, the devouring power Upanishad will always generate dregs and contaminants. Those things will contaminate your soul altar. Although you can't see or feel them, they still affect your understanding of powers Upanishad. It will make your breakthrough sluggish. More importantly, as your realm advances, you will swallow more souls. Although your soul altar will be tougher, it will have more contaminants, which will blind your inner world. When that happens, it will be very difficult for you to comprehend the powers Upanishad. When it comes to the acme, your soul altar will break. You will fall into bedevilment. Soul refining fluid is the greatest treasure that you need the most. You can use this divine fluid to discharge the dregs or contaminants generated by the devouring power Upanishad. This way, you can keep your soul altar clean. After a period of time when you've swallowed a specific number of soul altars, you must clean your soul altar once. The ring spirit quickly explained to Shiyang. Although it was feeble, it had made itself clear enough. Release the soul altar and immerse in soul refining fluid. Don't think about anything. You don't need to release the powers Upanishad. Clean your soul altar. It's the most important thing you must do now. If you can maintain a crystal clear soul, my memory combining speed will be faster. Go do it. Seems like I can be restored soon. The ring spirit sent its messages directly into Shiyang's soul. It seemed hurried, urging Shiyang to clean his soul altar and get rid of the dregs and contaminants. Shiyang was surprised. He thought it was unbelievable. The soul altar was the basis of a warrior. It was the source of life and consciousness. He had never thought that he could cultivate it like how he quenched his body. As his energy and realm were increasing, his soul altar was likely contaminated. No warrior could maintain a crystal clear soul altar. Every time he advanced his power and every time his power Upanishad had a breakthrough, dregs and contaminants were generated. When the devouring power Upanishad swallowed the soul altar and converted it into magical energy, it also conveyed the contaminants in the other's soul altar. Gradually, Shiyang's soul altar would have layers of pollutants, which would erode his soul and dirty his soul altar. His breakthrough speed would be stagnant. Soul refining fluid could magically solve this problem. It was also the key for peak of ethereal God realm warriors to break through to incipient God realm. Only when they had a crystal clear soul altar would they find the secret for their crucial breakthrough. After listening to the ring spirit's explanation, Shiyang now understood why Carlos and the other two had to come here at any cost. They wanted to use soul refining fluid to clean their soul and advance to incipient God realm. Evil Dragon McGee's big eyes widened. The closer they came to the blue pool, the better he could feel the magical energy that could pacify his soul. However, McGee didn't dare to act rashly. He didn't know if that pool had something dangerous. He didn't know the conversation between Shiyang and his ring spirit as he was focused on that pool. He was hesitant whether or not to release his soul and go in there to explore. While the dragon was still hesitant, Shiyang and the ring spirit had finished their conversation. Shiyang smiled and spoke to him. I think this pool can benefit our soul. All right, I'm going there to check. If nothing bad happens to me, you can go too. Then, he didn't wait for McGee to answer. Shiyang's soul altar flew out, heading to the hazy blue pool of soul refining flood. Splash! Shiyang's soul altar fell directly into the pool. An indescribable, marvelous feeling flooded his soul. Shiyang felt so comfortable that he wanted to moan. Shiyang's soul smiled until his eyes narrowed above the soul altar. He nodded to Evil Dragon McGee, indicating this place felt very good. McGee was cheered up. His huge eyes had an unclear excitement. He didn't wait for Shiyang to signal and he hastily released his soul. The dragon's soul looked like a chunk of turbulent air or more like a grey, light ball that fell into the misty blue pool created by soul refining fluid. The exceptionally marvelously comfortable feeling flooded into his soul, making McGee relax. He felt so good that he wanted time to stop right at this moment. Chapter 966, Black Water Star. Chapter 966, Black Water Star. In the center of the blue pool, Shiyang's soul altar and McGee's soul were floating. Wisps of deep blue fluid seeped into their souls. They could see beams of grey contaminants like gossamer being pushed out of their souls. Evil Dragon McGee had stopped being thrilled a long time ago. He stayed calm and pacified, taking in the nutrients of soul refining fluid. After the two of them sent their souls into the blue pool, the pool slowly shrank. Washing the soul and cleaning dregs and impurities in the soul was magical effects of soul-refining fluid. While their souls were being quenched, they felt refreshed and comfortable as if they were soaking in divine water. Each of their nerves was strangely relaxed. They didn't need to do anything, they just simply enjoyed. They didn't need to think much. Soul-refining fluid did all the magical things for them. The ash-gray beams of impurities oozed out from their souls, evaporating in the void. Shiyang's soul altar became transparent. It was crystal clear and sparkling like top-quality glass. It had no beam of dirt and it looked as exquisite as a heavenly masterpiece. Shiyang's soul altar had many dregs and contaminants. He was taking in soul-refining fluid much faster than McGee. The monster clan didn't value soul cultivation and McGee didn't have a complete experience in this aspect. Thus, he didn't absorb soul-refining fluid as much as Shiyang did. A significant proportion of the blue pool of soul-refining fluid had fiercely flooded Shiyang's soul altar, washing and quenching it. The divine fluid helped him discharge all impurities in his soul altar. It made his soul altar empty and fulgent. It looked like he had just formed the soul altar. It was much lighter and brighter. The empty and transparent soul altar could make the warrior more sensitive in comprehending power Upanishad. It could also advance the power Upanishad. Warriors with a soul altar would have their soul get dirty gradually as their power and realm increased. The dregs and contaminants would coat their soul and mind. Gradually, this kind of impurity could drive the warriors out of the right cultivating track. At that moment, their understanding of the power Upanishad would be slowed down. Especially in Shiyang's case. He had swallowed so many soul altars. Although the energy he had harvested was much more than he expected and could help his soul altar be tougher and become almost unbreakable, it brought more contaminants to his soul altar. Soul-refining fluid was much more useful to him than anybody else. It was like a gift that was particularly bestowed to warriors like him. The blue pool slowly shrank. After an unknown time, the pool full of soul-refining fluid was all absorbed. Shiyang had taken in 3/4, and McGee took the other quarter. However, McGee's soul was cleaned. Now he had a deeper understanding of the evil dragon tribe's power. The pool disappeared, leaving 2 floating souls, which were slowly digesting the magical energy they had just taken. They could feel their empty and peaceful soul without much thought. After a while, Shiyang's soul altar moved and disappeared into his god body. He opened his eyes, stretching his body. He smiled as he was satisfied. McGee's soul swayed, flying back to his 2,000 meters body. Right after that, McGee moved his body. His bones sounded like metal clanging. McGee shook his head and his tail. The huge eyes of the monster sparkled with surprise. He couldn't help but shout. Awesome! His eyes looked like they had turned into beautiful green jewels, which didn't have a dot of impurity. They were transparent and Shiyang could even see the bottom. It was the visible sign of a cleaned soul altar. McGee quieted down and sensed. He felt happy, looking at Shiyang. He talked seriously, "Bro, I don't know how to thank you enough. Without you, I could have died. You've rescued me twice. You brought me here to refine my soul." Shiyang smiled, talking deliberately. "I may need your help later. If I come to you and ask for your help one day, I hope you won't deny me." McGee nodded continually and cheerfully. "Bro, you can find me for help at any time. It's my honor. As long as McGee can do it, I will never deny it from you." After pausing for a while, McGee added, "You know, our monster clan values friendly sentiments. We won't just have things done carelessly. If you need me, please don't hesitate." "Sure," Shiyang nodded strongly. Both Shiyang and McGee had taken advantage of soul-refining fluid in ways that they couldn't describe. Their clear souls made them more sensitive to power Upanishad. Their souls seemed to have upgraded to another level. While Shiyang was checking his condition, he found that his sea of consciousness didn't change much. However, it was calm and peaceful. Each flow of his soul consciousness had connected to his soul. They became his extended limbs. He had never experienced this kind of connection before. In the tier of power Upanishad, the star, death and life, and space powers seemed to have some subtle changes. Although they opened to different directions, they seemed to become a body and a part of his soul. Shi Yang could sense the feeble modifications of his powers Upanishad. Ah! McGee screamed in surprise. He turned around, his face skeptical. Look! Shi Yang turned around, his face baffled. The outer layer of the blue bubble had become a murky, gray area. There was no crazy electric discharge anymore. Fine space slits appeared in the outer layer of the bubble. They could see the real world out there through the slits. It is collapsing. Taking a deep breath, Shi Yang closed his eyes to sense. He knew that this space crack was changing silently. The space slits appeared, leading to the real world. There. McGee's eyes brightened as he stormed over a space slit. Light sparkled in his eyes as he said, "It looks familiar. It must be Blackwater Star. It's not far from our evil dragon tribe's territory." Shi Yang followed McGee's line of sight. A narrow space slit slowly expanded. They could see a seething black sea through the slit. This seawater was rare, indeed. Scattered here and there were some small islands, which looked like tiny boats floating in the sea. This black sea was shoreless. It seemed to occupy half this life star. Shi Yang didn't see any continent. He saw just a few islands and all of them were somehow small and ugly. The ocean covers Blackwater Star entirely. Anyway, it's the hustle and bustle of the undersea. Seeing Shi Yang watching, McGee explained immediately, "Bro, can you take me to Blackwater Star? I heard you cultivate space power Upanishad, right?" McGee was uncertain, looking at Shi Yang with hope. He didn't know Shi Yang's real attainment on space power Upanishad. If Shi Yang looked hesitant, it meant that Shi Yang didn't have a profound understanding of space power. McGee would feel very worried then. Moving through the space slit was a dangerous operation. If they were careless for just a moment, their souls would perish. If Shi Yang wasn't sure, McGee wouldn't take this risk. "Blackwater Star," Shi Yang mumbled. He frowned and then said, "It isn't far from Devil Bloodstar, is it?" Devil Bloodstar was the Blood Devil's headquarters. Before Wu Lan left, she told him that if he could escape, he must go to Devil Bloodstar. As long as he could get there, no expert of the Far West region would dare to trouble him anymore. It's true. Blackwater Star and Devil Bloodstar aren't far from each other. Also, it's pretty close to our monster Dragon Star. McGee nodded continually. "All right. Then we'll go there," Shi Yang chuckled. He looked at the enlarging space slit, urging his powers. Beams of space energy were like gossamers in his body that shot toward the space slits like sharp, pointy knives. A brilliant light passage created by his space energy appeared. It looked like a door leading directly to Blackwater Star where there was an immense black ocean. Evil Dragon McGee was shaken, speaking happily. "Bro, can we get there?" Shi Yang smiled, "I'm going first. You just need to follow me." Then, he stormed towards the magnificently radiant passage. His god body was entangled with many beams of vivid light. However, the chaotic space currents didn't attack him anymore. McGee's eyes brightened. He didn't wait until Shi Yang disappeared completely and hurried to follow after him. One human and one dragon moved through the light passage. They gradually disappeared from this magical, chaotic space basin, leaving no trace. Not long after they left, the magical deep blue world shattered. It became a ruin in the space basin. Streamers shot out like fires or a crazy meteor shower. Above the immensely vast black ocean of Blackwater Star appeared a space slit. Two figures were flung out of the slits, violently falling into the water. The space slit disappeared little by little as if streamers were mending it. Eventually, the void was resumed. Shi Yang and McGee floated in the icy cold seawater, facing the sky. It was a starry sky with several suns and moons arranged above the star, beaming strange but splendid lights that illuminated this world. The black seawater was also shining. It looked like shattered light that lit up this whole world. "Ha ha ha. I've survived." Evil Dragon McGee looked at the familiar environment. His massive dragon body was continually wiggling in the sea and rising waves. He looked like a water monster which was trying to swagger, messing up everything. Suddenly, Some figures started to emerge from the Black Sea. They were warriors of the Sea Clan, holding sharp weapons. They were angry as they wanted to send punitive forces against the ones who were wreaking havoc here. However, after they found that it was evil dragon McGee, they discolored and said nothing. They then sank down, getting back to the seabed. It seemed like they knew how intimidating the evil dragon tribe was, so they didn't dare to cause any grudge against McGee. McGee didn't mind them. He moved and stretched his body in the water to vent out his excitement. He had stirred the sea area around him so much that it was like there was a disaster. Blackwater Star also had dwellers. However, as they knew McGee was strong, none of them dared to bother him. After rolling around for a while, McGee calmed down. He felt bored all of a sudden. His massive body transformed into his human form, becoming a brawny man. He laughed cheerily. "Bro, have you ever been to Blackwater Star?" Yang shook his head. "Go, I'm taking you to a nice place. We're going to throw a welcome party for you." McGee laughed crazily, moving through the water impetuously. He seemed to be very familiar with Blackwater Star. He knew where to go. After he had turned into a humanoid form, he was still domineeringly wild, charging around violently. Yang felt funny, shaking his head begrudgingly and following him. Chapter 967, Evil Dragon's Natural Instincts. Chapter 967, Evil Dragon's Natural Instincts. Evil Dragon McGee seemed to be the distinguished guest of Blackwater Star. He knew this place well. He was charging around violently, didn't mind the others. He had bumped into warriors of different races along the way, but none of them dared to stop him. Evil Dragon Tribe had a strong force with a high reputation around this place. McGee was the youngest son of the Evil Dragon Tribe's patriarch. He was usually stubborn and domineering. He belonged to a small group of people on the top of the pyramid. However, the target McGee was looking for seemed to be very far away. They had run for a long time but hadn't reached the place yet. Yang became impatient. They had gone through a lot of struggles to get out of that space crack. Yang had an urge to use the child formation of the mother and child sky linking formation to connect to the giant tribe, Phelan, and Leona. He wanted to know what was happening to them lately. Dozens of years were perpetual to the warriors who could live for several thousands of years. It was just a blink of an eye. However, it was like an endless amount of time to Yang. A couple dozens of years were enough for the giant tribe to undergo tremendous changes. He didn't know if his fellows could get over that challenge safely. He felt very worried and hurried. Thus, he halted, frowning and talking to McGee. "I want to find a rest stop. I need to do something." McGee also stopped, turning his head to look at Yang and smiling. "Don't rush. We're almost there." We'll get there in 2 hours maximum. It's a small island, but it's the center of Blackwater Star, which is the most bustling area." Frowning, Yang nodded. After 2 hours, they saw an island in the middle of the shoreless Black Ocean. The ground of this island was as black and tough as iron. However, this place still had some bizarre floras and members of different races working on it. Most of them belonged to the Monster Clan, Sea Clan, Human Clan, and Demon Clan. It looked like they came here to trade for materials. This island was called Blackstone Island. It had many buildings, which looked more like grand palaces. Those buildings were really tall. Their heights could be dozens or hundreds of meters. Yang could see many people from different races, including the Sea Clan, Monster Clan, Demon Clan, Human Clan, and some other clans move around in Blackstone Island. Strange battleships anchored in the sea area by Blackstone Island. They looked like ancient beasts lying underwater. All looked huge and ferocious. People were transporting brilliant and colorful cultivating materials from the battleships to the buildings in this small island. Blackwater Star is the territory of the Sea Clan. This life star doesn't have land, but there is an immensely vast ocean. Anyway, there are many marvelous cultivating materials undersea, which can't be found in any other stars. The Sea Clan exploits those materials and trades with other warriors in the surrounding life stars. McGee smiled and explained. Blackstone Island is the market. You can enjoy many things here. We can find a lot of beauties in different clans. You've saved me twice. I'll make you more comfortable here. McGee laughed, heading to the most luxurious palaces in the center of Blackstone Island. Shi Yang was surprised, smiling bitterly inwardly. He hesitated but still followed McGee. When they walked to a palace, a Sea Clan guard shouted all of a sudden, his eyes brightening. "Young Master McGee, is that you?" McGee laughed as if he had cracked and was going crazy. "Give me the most luxurious and expensive place for me. I want to treat my distinguished guest. Let the girls in. I want the best for my bro." "Young Master McGee, your father has been looking for you. Haven't you gone missing?" The guard looked at him, trying to find his words. McGee was baffled for a while, scratching his head and mumbling. "Oh, I forgot this. Right, it's been dozens of years since he's seen me. He should be worried." However, he forgot this shortly after, speaking deliberately. "I'm heading back to Monster Dragonstar soon. You shouldn't mind my business. Get me the room." The guard smiled happily and nodded his head continually while leading the way. This place was a palace made of glistening, five-colored stone. It was lit up by the suns, moons, and stars everywhere in the sky. The splendid lights made this place stunningly luxurious. The palace was divided into many blocks and the best places were behind the palace with different villas. Each villa had a hot pond, which was directed from the hot spring. The water's temperature here was warm and comfortable year-round. With many precious stones and mineral substances, it had a magical effect on the warriors when they cultivated here. Each of the villas was built with different and rare materials. They looked luxurious and elegant. They had miniatures of mountains, streams, and bridges. The walls of these villas had formations that could gather earth and heaven energy. McGee took Shi Yang directly to a villa behind the palace. After he found a seat, he called loudly for good food and liquors. Shortly after, beautiful women in opulent clothes arrived beaming. Their exquisite, jade-like hands were holding trays of fruits and wine, their eyes twinkling. Shi Yang could see merpeople of the Sea Clan, fox race women of the Monster Clan, charming race women of the Demon Clan in this group. Those clans were famous for their significant number of beautiful and charming ladies. Those ladies wore flimsy, silky clothes, flashing their snow-white skin. They giggled, leaning on McGee and massaging his shoulders and his legs. Their delicate, charming faces looked servile as they were trying to win his favor. McGee had a constant smile on his face. After those women came, his hands were too busy lingering on their ample bosoms and rear ends. His eyes were lustful and he laughed constantly. Some beautiful ladies of the charming race and the fox race around 20 years old approached Shi Yang. They looked vivid and fresh like newly grown flowers. Shi Yang frowned discreetly, glancing at McGee and his lecherous behavior. He thought that the evil dragon tribe lived up to their lustful infamy. Besides their tremendous combat competence, they were also infamous for their licentious behaviors in the entire Agate Star area. McGee's bearings were the natural instincts of the evil dragon tribe. Staying in Agate Star area for a long time, Shi Yang knew that this high-level, vast star area had many races which didn't originate from Grace Mainland. He knew there were Evil Dragon Tribe, Ice Clan, Wood Clan, Fire Clan, and other bizarre clans. Agate Star area had Human Clan, Demon Clan, and Sea Clan. He understood that the 10 ancient clans of Grace Mainland didn't exist only in Grace Mainland. Outer space was infinite indeed. With countless star areas, there were as many life stars as grains of sand. Different races originated and derived into different shapes. Perhaps the 10 ancient clans of Grace Mainland appeared for a long time in other star areas. Also, it was possible that the 10 ancient clans in Grace Mainland had come from other star areas through some space channels or some magical inheritances. In short, Grace Mainland wasn't the central star area. Although it was an ancient continent, it wasn't unique. Agate Star area had more than 100 races including the known 10 ancient races. Moreover, they weren't from Grace Mainland. Of course, there should be some clans that had departed from Grace Mainland and settled down in Agate Star area like the Giant Tribe. However, those clans from Grace Mainland weren't critical forces of Agate Star area. They were even weaker. McGee and the famous beauties of the pagan tribes were still drinking and teasing each other. They wanted Shi Yang to enjoy this time with them. Shi Yang's smile was reluctant and faint. As he was worried, he couldn't be in a good mood. McGee could see that he was down. He was bewildered for a while and he pushed the fox girl in his lap away with a frown. "Bro, what makes you down? If McGee can help, I won't refuse. You can be honest with me." Shi Yang smiled, finished half of his glass in just one gulp. "I'm from the far west region. I have many friends. I don't know where they are now. I'm worried a lot." McGee was baffled. He contemplated for a while and then waved his hand, dismissing the ladies. "Get out now." The beauties had gone, leaving only McGee and Shi Yang in the spacious villa. "How may I help you?" McGee said seriously when there were only the two of them in the room. "As long as I'm capable, I will definitely help you. You tell me. How can I help you? Is it safe here? Will we be disturbed?" Shi Yang was hesitant. He released his soul consciousness skeptically. His eyes brightened. "It can prevent soul detecting?" He looked at the walls as he found that he couldn't get through the barriers unless he used his space power Upanishad. Shi Yang suddenly realized that this place wasn't just simply a luxury tavern. The one who had designed this palace should have some background or attainment. "Don't worry. No one can disturb us here. I know the owner of this place. Members of the Sea Dragon tribe of the Sea Clan built this place. You can tell me anything here." McGee nodded. Shi Yang smiled. He got up, walking to the center of this grand villa. The fantasy sky ring flashed and the child formation of the mother and child sky linking formation emerged beautifully like a precious lotus throne. It descended to the ground. Divine crystals were immediately inlaid neatly on the formation. All of a sudden, the child formation glowed. Space energy diffused shortly after. McGee was astounded, hissing, "Bro, you're not ordinary at all. This kind of linking formation is priceless." Shi Yang nodded, his face became stern. He extended his left hand, shaking. He didn't dare to create the connection. He didn't know whether the mother formation in the old orchid star was taken or not. It has been dozens of years. He didn't know if the giant tribe, Feilan, Leona, and the others were able to escape. He was scared. He was scared that he would get nothing after he connected the formation. He was afraid that he would see something he didn't want to see. "Bro, why you are hesitant?" McGee was curious. Shi Yang sighed inwardly. His face became resolute. Beams of space light meandered, shooting out from his palm and congregating at the child formation. Fierce space energy fluctuated from the child formation. The imposing villa was shaken as if it couldn't endure it. Thump, thump, thump. All of a sudden, the metal doors of the villa pounded. A voice that could soften people's bones arose. "McGee, come out here. Your sister is here to see you." McGee retracted his neck. He slightly discolored. He shouted hastily, "Don't. I'm taking a shower. It's all right. I like watching you shower the most." Boom. The massive doors broke. In the radiant light, a slim body stormed in. Chapter 968, Gu Mo. Chapter 968, Gu Mo _ McGee discolored. Looking at Shi Yang releasing space power to connect the formation, McGee had a gleam of irritation in his eyes. Frowning, Shi Yang stopped his operation, flew out of the child formation, and steadied himself inside the grand villa. He coldly looked at the one who had just arrived. It was a petite woman who didn't look like she was more than 18 years old. She had 2 dragon horns on her head. She wore a suit of black armor, which lingered on her healthy bronze skin. Her ruby eyes were sparkling beautifully. The little girl had a soft and cute voice. She spoke tender words. However, she was full of energy, which wasn't less than McGee. "Ah!" The girl let out a low cry. Looking at the child formation in the hall, her ruby eyes glowed. She laughed cheerfully, looking at McGee. "Why did you bring a space teleport formation here?" "Hee hee. McGee, you've disappeared for a couple dozens of years. What are you playing? Your father worried a lot about you. He has asked our brutal dragon tribe to keep an eye on your whereabouts. Brutal dragon tribe? Shi Yang was surprised. He couldn't help but observe the girl, feeling amazed discreetly. The monster clan in Agate Star area was a mighty clan. Although it had many branches, the two most powerful branches of Monster Clan were the Evil Dragon Tribe and the Brutal Dragon Tribe. They were the pillars of the Monster Clan. The Brutal Dragon Tribe was another tribe of the Monster Clan which was famous for its mighty power. The Brutal Dragon Tribe had a good relationship with the Evil Dragon Tribe. They were sustainable allies who moved and retreated together. When the Monster Clan had any issue, these two tribes would join hands and solve the problem. The petite girl had utterly transformed, but the tremendous blood chi from her body was significant enough for Shi Yang to recognize her identity. Warriors of different races found it hard to reach the toughness level of their bodies. At the same time, only the Monster Clan considered body cultivating as their main path of martial art. And only the strong branches of Monster Clan could reach such a level. Jiyu Mo, why are you in Blackwater Star? McGee snorted, pouting his lips. And don't be all sisterly to me. I don't have such a rude, unreasonable, and mindless sister like you. Spit it out. What problem have you caused this time? Problem? Jiyu Mo laughed cheerily. What problems would I have? I'm worried about you. I want to see how you are doing. So why don't you welcome me? I won't. McGee looked like he had a headache. If you don't have any business here, don't disturb me. It was so hard for me to get back. I wanna relax a bit here. Then, McGee waved his hand as if he couldn't stand her anymore. He signaled Jiyu Mo to go away. Jiyu Mo of the Brutal Dragon Tribe still had a smile on her face as she assessed Shi Yang. She spoke to him tenderly. Little brother, how do you relate to McGee? I just wanted to warn you as soon as possible. McGee is a spoiled kid. You won't have anything good happen if you stay with him. You'd better draw a clear line with him soon. Shi Yang frowned, his face cold and stern. He didn't respond to the girl. Jiyu Mo snorted. She wasn't pleased with Shi Yang's manners. She turned around and rolled her eyes at McGee. Suddenly, she looked reluctant, her voice more tender. McGee, I want to discuss something with you. Later, McGee was bewildered. Afterward, he spoke up. Wait until my bro I and here finish our business. Then, I will talk to you. But I want to make myself clear first. Don't you dare use me as your shield or ask me to be your partner in crime ever again. Shi Yang was amazed. From McGee's attitude, Shi Yang could tell that his relationship with this brutal dragon girl wasn't shallow. It seemed like she used to use him before. He was pissed off. However, due to the good relationship between the Evil Dragon Tribe and the Brutal Dragon Tribe, he previously got along well with Jiyu Mo. That was why he was a bit moody now. Don't. I like a man. He's arrogant. But my father favors him a lot. He doesn't even mind me. Jiyu Mo let herself loose easily. She didn't even mind Shi Yang's presence. She talked tenderly. I don't know what he likes. He's very quiet. I don't know what he thinks. I think you guys are all men, so it would be easier for you guys to connect. Can you help me make him open up a little bit to see what he likes? McGee was astounded. He looked at Jiyu Mo disbelievingly and stammered, You're joking, right? I have never seen your face like this before. Do you really like him? Impossible. The savage little girl of the Brutal Dragon Tribe likes someone? You never favored any man. Is he from Monster Clan too? Yeah, he's one of us. Anyway, he isn't from Agate Star area. He came to our star area 10 years ago. Now, he's a fighter of our Brutal Dragon Tribe. My father said that he has endless potential and that he would become the new star of our Monster Clan. Jiyu Mo was a little shy. He's very cold and harsh. In the past 10 years, he has fought everywhere for our Brutal Dragon Tribe. He has earned our respect. Lately, my father had a bizarre idea. He wants to give him a life star. Wow, impossible. McGee became interested. Your father has sharp eyes, and he has high expectations too. A foreigner can earn his appreciation that much. Is he really that excellent? Yeah, Jiyu Mo nodded. She hesitated for a while before continuing. I think he's a hybrid. He has the blood of the Dark Clan though. His power is strange and wicked. He is definitely a member of Monster Clan, but we've never seen his branch in Agate Star area before. He's called Ghost Hunter. Shi Yang was struck. He heard only buzzing sounds in his head and he didn't know what Jiu Mo and McGee were talking about. Ghost Hunter. It was Ghost Hunter. When he left Grace Mainland that year, Ghost Hunter, Holy Spirit God, devouring gold silkworm, king of demonic insects had gone to gather the Monster Clan's inheritance. After that, Shi Yang lost his connection with them. After he had returned, he had found them bitterly in Grace Mainland. He could only see the inheritance altar on that mountain range and his beasts. It has been so many years. How could Shi Yang stay calm hearing news of Ghost Hunter in Agate Star area? Actually, Ghost Hunter was the first mount he had tamed. His great-grandfather had brought him from the demon area. Ghost Hunter had a unique origin. He was the hybrid of Heaven Ghost of Underworld and Hunter Dragon of the demon area, which was the strongest and most bizarre dark monster and demon beast of the underworld and demon area in Grace Mainland respectively. From the day he followed Shi Yang always felt that he was an extremely fearful creature. Shi Yang could never imagine that he could find Ghost Hunter's whereabouts in Agate Star area. They had been apart for so long. Ghost Hunter. Why did he work for brutal dragon clan of Agate Star area? What happened to them in Heavenly Demon Mountain Range? Where had he been before he came to Agate Star area? What happened to him? Shi Yang was perplexed, staying put. He was immersed in shock. He didn't say anything for a long time. McGee was still talking to Jiu Mo. Jiu Mo was explaining and telling him how Ghost Hunter of the brutal dragon tribe had won in many battles. He is pretty fierce. Ever since he arrived, he has always been engaging in combat. He's bloodthirsty and brutal. He's more brutal and savage than our brutal dragon tribe. My father favors him a lot. He has joined many fights for our tribe. His achievements pile up day by day, which is a threat to our clansmen. At this moment, he's about to break through to level 12. I think it won't take too long. About to reach level 12? Which means he's at the peak of level 11? Nah, not much different from the other warriors at peak of original God realm. Jiu Mo, you're at level 12. Why do you need to please him? McGee was surprised. I couldn't defeat him. Jiu Mo smiled embarrassedly. I didn't feel right when my father favored him more than me. I fought him once when no one noticed. He beat me up. He almost killed me. At that moment, I found his charisma. Only this sort of man would be able to match me. Holy moly. McGee was astounded. He's one level lower than you and he almost killed you. Jiu Mo, have you not made any progress these years? You think you're strong? Jiu Mo sneered. Even if it were you, you would be defeated. If he wasn't so outstanding, how can I yearn for him that much? Our monster clan isn't similar to other races. Not many tribes can do this kind of different level combat. Especially since he defeated me. Among tribes of Monster Clan, our two tribes are the strongest. If he can defeat me, a brutal dragon member, he can beat you up too. He can even kill you. Jiu Mo spoke resolutely as if it the absolute truth. Apparently, McGee didn't buy it. He sneered, shaking his head. He's from a small, unknown tribe. You think he can defeat me? What kind of joke is that? I think that since you like him, you didn't use your full power. That was how he defeated you. Oh, women. You will do everything your heart tells you to do. Bring it on. Jiu Mo was enraged. She smiled coldly. He's in Blackstone Island. Do you need to test him? If you can defeat him, I'm sure I won't trouble you anymore. And I will cover your ass for those dirty things you've done. Are you sure? Sure. Deal. McGee was boosted. He rubbed his hands, grinning. Since you have my tail, you often threatened me that you will report me. I'm so irritated. Well, I can teach your loved one a lesson. You will see how strong I am. Later on, you won't babble and tag along anymore. McGee shot up. He was excited about having a fight. However, he seemed to recall something, turning to Shi Yang embarrassedly. Bro, you stay here. I'll get back to you soon. Don't worry. No one will disturb you here. I will tell them and take care of you. Jiyu Mo of the brutal dragon tribe didn't mind Shi Yang. She just glanced at him and then turned around. In Jiyu Mo's eyes, Shi Yang was just a warrior at second sky of original god realm. Evidently, he wasn't worth mentioning. As one of the strongest branches of the monster clan in Agate Star area, the brutal dragon tribe was famous. They had keen eyesight. I'm going with you. As McGee and Jiyu Mo were still baffled, Shi Yang put the child formation back into his fantasy sky ring. He followed them quietly, speaking deliberately. I also want to widen my knowledge. Hey boy, remember to stay far away from them. The man I like is very strong. He won't care about killing you. As you are McGee's friend, I'm kind enough to remind you. You shouldn't court yourself death. Jiyu Mo frowned, kindly giving him advice. Shi Yang nodded nonchalantly. McGee, your friend's realm isn't high. How did you meet him? Jiyu Mo didn't care about Shi Yang's feelings, speaking to McGee casually. You should be careful. Don't infuriate him. Otherwise, even I won't be able to stop him. He doesn't listen to me. He doesn't listen to anybody. Sometimes, he even goes against my father's orders. This man is very haughty. But I really like him. Jiyu Mo was infatuated with the man as if she had been sinking deep into the sea of affection that she couldn't control. Chapter 969, Ghost Hunter at this moment. Chapter 969, Ghost Hunter at this moment, _. A slender, flying bird battleship anchored on the black stone south of Blackstone Island. This battleship was more than 2,000 meters long. It looked like a bird that had spread its wings and was flying. This battleship was sleek and slender with a small head, small tail, and broad wings. It was made of some snow-white, jade-like bone. A beautiful halo was moving along the battleship as if it had magical water murmuring. Experts of the monster clan in their human forms were sitting neatly on that battleship. They looked strange and eccentric, indeed. Some had long heads and long horns while others had long tails and thick fangs. Although they had humanoid forms, they still kept the best prominent feature of their races. All looked brutal and mighty. A young man wearing black-grey garments sat on the top of the battleship. He was indifferent and cold like a rock. His black-grey long robe was filled with bizarre embroideries, which looked more like wiggling worms. His long hair flew with the wind, giving him a peculiarly wicked look with a bunch of snakes on his head. The outlines on his face looked like they were carved right out of marble with distinctive edges and corners. His pupils were terrifyingly red. Several hundred monster warriors lined up behind him. They were looking at their leader with great respect and admiration which came from the bottom of their hearts. In Monster Clan, the brutal dragon had many outstanding and robust young men. However, those vigorous and wild men were all followed this young one. The young man sat quietly. His eyes looked straight ahead without a real focus. He seemed to be absorbed in his thoughts. The others didn't know what was in his head. That's him. Jiyu Mo halted, pointing at the man in the distance from the forest. Her beautiful eyes bright as she muttered, "What do you think? Manly and cool enough, right?" McGee frowned and snorted, haughty. "You should gather your guts and fight him." Jiyu Mo smiled tenderly and relaxingly. "We don't need a reason to fight between the members of Monster Clan. It's like discussing martial arts. You can go now. I do want to see what he's got." McGee laughed evilly. His body shot out of the forest like a sharp sword. An explosive blow came from his arms. Giant trees exploded. Pieces of wood and rock shattered everywhere as they couldn't stand the shockwave of his movement. A deep ditch appeared underneath McGee while he was flying. It looked like a massive weapon had plowed this terrifying ditch. Shi Yang halted quietly. He was very surprised when he looked at his face, which was somehow both similar and strange to him. He had a complex mood and he didn't know what to say. After dozens of years apart, his old partner was now a mighty fighter of the Monster Clan. He had accumulated tremendous powers in his body, which helped him grind the entire Blackstone Island into powder easily. From his competence, Shi Yang could tell that he could be compared to peak of original God Realm warriors. He also had the ability to challenge level 12 monster experts. This meant Ghost Hunter wouldn't be in a disadvantaged situation if he fought Shi Yang. It was just a couple dozens of years. Ghost Hunter's progress wasn't less than his. He didn't know what difficulties Ghost Hunter had experienced or the number of bloody battles he had undergone to reach his current intimidating level. Shi Yang's pupils shrank as he observed the monster experts lining behind Ghost Monster. He didn't skip any one of them. However, he was dispirited as he found that none of them were familiar except for Ghost Hunter. King of demonic insects, devouring gold silkworm, and Holy Spirit God weren't with Ghost Hunter. Shi Yang's mood sank. He felt a little worried. Ghost Hunter sat silently on the bird-like battleship. A gleam of brutal deeds flashed in his eyes as he saw McGee coming fiercely. He stood up. Fierce and imposing energy shot out from an arm that looked like it was molded out of iron and steel. It felt like many volcanoes erupting at the same time. This kind of blood chi and energy was unimaginable. Boom! His strike seemed to be able to crush the sky. Explosions reverberated around Blackstone Island. The small island was shaken grumblingly. His punch seemed to seal the whole world. His fist enlarged continually like a steel mountain, which burst off the air by its formidable pressure. With the earth-shattering momentum, his strike dimmed the light from the suns and moons. In Shi Yang's and Jiu Mo's eyes, the world seemed to not exist anymore. They could see only that punch, which had torn space and was filling each corner of this island and each sea of consciousness while sending pains to other warriors. Shi Yang's soul altar shook. He felt frightened. He could never have imagined such power from Ghost Hunter. His body sealed this space with a changing power. Within his punch, he had tens of thousands of energy threads combining. Eventually, he would urge his power to the acme. This was the brutal force that only warriors with exquisite attainment in their body's energy could release. Shi Yang thought that he couldn't urge his body's energy to this mighty level. Explode. Tens of thousands of light beams shot out, running like dragons or snakes in the air. They forcefully stopped McGee on his way. This punch was covered with entangling light beams. It looked like a light ball, exploding directly in front of McGee's chest. In this earth-shattering commotion, McGee's body sank and then fell to the ground. Crack, crack, crack. A massive cave running several thousand meters deep into the ground opened the moment McGee landed. It led deep under this small island. The entire Blackstone Island was shaking as if a great earthquake was shaking it violently. Many iron or stone buildings shook as if they were about to collapse. Many warriors of different clans screamed in fear. They immediately got out of where they were and headed to this area to see what was going on. Standing on the battleship, Ghost Hunter wore a cold and harsh countenance. He had a savage aura. His distinctive facial edges were icy cold, which made him like an ice-sharp sword drawn out of its scabbard. He hadn't moved yet. Only his hand buzzed as the bones, flesh, and vessels inside made noise. It was the sign of energy urged to the utmost. McGee fell into the massive cave. Water splashed in that cave from time to time. It seemed like the Blackstone Island had been drilled. McGee hadn't reacted. He looked like he was dizzy after that strike. He didn't fly out from that cave under the Black Sea. Staying in the dimlit cave, McGee lifted his face to look at Ghost Hunter, his face baffled. Jiu Mo balled her soft and small hands. Her beautiful eyes were cheerful and vivid with different brilliant colors. She eyed Ghost Hunter, giggling and screaming excitedly. How about that? More domineering than McGee? Shi Yang nodded unconsciously. You should stay far away from them. McGee will be enraged shortly. He won't control himself when he battles. If they move their battle site to your place, I'm sure you won't be able to resist the shockwave with your realm. As Jiu Mo saw him agree with her idea, she kindly reminded him. Although you have the soul altar, without power from your soul altar, your feeble body won't be able to stand the shockwave of such potent forces. Since you have a good relationship with McGee, I advise you to leave this place early. You are different from me, so you don't have the mighty power of our tribe. Shi Yang frowned and cocked his head to look at her, talking deliberately. It's okay. I want to observe. The reason why Shi Yang had come here but hadn't met Ghost Hunter yet was that he wanted to see to which level Ghost Hunter had achieved at this moment. Of course, he wouldn't retreat before learning this. Ji Mo's beautiful eyes had a gleam of disdain. She snorted, talking impatiently. Forget it. I'll protect you. I don't want McGee to blame me for lacking a code of brotherhood. Shi Yang chuckled, but he didn't say anything else. Many warriors of the clans on Blackstone Island gathered. They consisted of Monster Clan, Demon Clan, Sea Clan, and Human Clan. They came with varying means. Some rode beautiful war chariots or flying carriages. Some just flew over, floating in the air. They were young and old, and men and women. There were senile warriors as well as excited and elegant ladies. Ghost Hunter. Ghost Hunter of the brutal dragon tribe. Whom is he fighting? Ghost Hunter is quite the character. 13 years ago, he emerged in this place. He'd killed so many members of the Monster Clan. He used their blood to strengthen himself. His deeds are brutal and domineering. The brutal dragon tribe had sent several troops to clean him up. They had sacrificed a lot but got nothing. In the end, the patriarch of the brutal dragon tribe came to talk to him. We don't know what they spoke about, but afterward, he became a member of the brutal dragon tribe. He has battled everywhere for the brutal dragon tribe. Yeah, I heard that he's not from the Monster Clan in Agatstar area. He's a hybrid. Very cruel and dangerous. The brutal dragon tribe's fortune got better since they got such a savage subordinate like that. I heard the patriarch of the tribe wanted to recruit him. He said that this young man would become one of the leaders of the Monster Clan in the future. He's blinding me. Members of different clans gathering here all lived in the nearby life stars. Listening to Ghost Hunter's legends, they acclaimed continually. In their eyes, Ghost Hunter, the new star, was an unpredictable character with endless potential. He'd become the sharpest and bloodiest sword of the brutal dragon clan. His name was enough to scare the brutal dragon tribe's enemies out of their wits. When they arrived, McGee had been struck into the cave, so they didn't see who Ghost Hunter's opponent was. They didn't know that it was McGee, the bad McGee of the evil dragon tribe. Splash splash. A backwater current shot up into the sky from the cave. This current looked like a giant black dragon, circling Blackstone Island. All of a sudden, it stormed toward Ghost Hunter. McGee slowly emerged in the center of the black current. His face was dark and calm like the water. He looked stiff and focused as if he had to have this dangerous combat against Ghost Hunter. McGee. It's evil dragon McGee. It's McGee. It's the haughty McGee of the evil dragon clan. A fierce battle to be expected. The onlookers recognized McGee. They felt excitedly hyped. They knew that they could expect a fantastic battle. They were all stirred up. McGee looked serious. Ji Mo also became stern. Her beautiful eyes gazed at the battle, mumbling, "Finally, I have a chance to know your real competence. McGee, you're stronger than me. I'm so thrilled. I wonder if you could defeat him." Shi Yang was surprised, glancing at Ji Mo and contemplating. The Monster Clan appreciated the strong. Monster females had always linked competence together with masculine attractions. From her bearings, Ji Ma seemed to have a real feeling for Ghost Hunter and no other intentions. Chapter 970, Shi Yang's Guarantee. Chapter 970, Shi Yang's Guarantee. Giant McGee burst out of the cave. His body was hidden in the center of the black water dragon. He moved like a rainbow with the powers of 1,000 men pressing down maliciously on Ghost Hunter. Rattle, rattle. The black dragon was still moving in the air. The dense steam shrank, condensing earth and heaven energy around into one flow. Earth and heaven energy of Blackstone Island seemed to all be drawn. The other warriors felt their souls trembling hard. They had a hallucination of their soul altars and consciousness sinking deep into an unknown tornado. Some couldn't even control their bodies, moving toward the black water dragon. To the warriors who cultivated physical strength, when they had reached a specific level, they could easily gather earth and heaven energy and accumulate in their bodies. McGee was a member of the evil dragon tribe. He had always cultivated his body. At this moment, his understanding and controlling of surrounding energy had reached an exquisite and profound level. Ghost Hunter stayed cold, looking at McGee taking in all the energy of Blackstone Island. He frowned. He finally became serious. McGee was definitely a strong opponent with whom he could have a good fight. He didn't know McGee or the reason why McGee suddenly wanted to battle him, and he didn't have any interest to do that. However, today Ghost Hunter had become a captain of a troop of brutal dragon tribe. He had several hundred bloodthirsty monster experts under his command. They only listened to his orders and submitted to him wholeheartedly. Ghost Hunter got such support because he was always in the vanguard of each battle. He had never retreated and seemed to have no fear of any force. Even if he had to confront a warrior whose realm was higher than his, he would still have the guts to fight the other directly. He would never lose his face in front of his troopers. Thus, Ghost Hunter wasn't hesitant at all. His face darkened as if he was actually enraged. Roar. A low but sharp roar tore the sky. Ghost Hunter soared up into the sky from his battleship. He was like a sharp weapon that could pierce through everything, shooting towards the giant black dragon. Rumble. 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 The earth-shattering explosions reverberated in each corner of Blackstone Island. Low-realm warriors shivered, their souls trembling uneasily. The energy of the shockwave was dazzling, shooting and exploding everywhere from the sky. Each strike of the shockwaves left a bottomless hole on the ground of Blackstone Island. Those shockwaves even boiled the seawater, sending black water arrows up into the sky. Blackstone Island was poorly damaged quickly. Thousands of holes were created. Many ancient trees were struck down. Rocks were smashed. There were even 1,000-meter-deep ditches drawn on the island. The onlookers were frightened. They couldn't help but activate their power Upanishad. Then, many colored light protections appeared. Gyumo discolored. She cursed under her breath. Her eyes sparkled as she grabbed Shiyang. A dark green light cage made of pure energy covered Shiyang like a big green bowl. It sheltered him from the shockwaves of the other two's attacks. Shiyang was surprised and he discreetly looked at her. It seemed like Gyumo and McGee were close. She gave McGee face by protecting Shiyang. This meant that Gyumo did respect McGee. She wasn't as rude as she had treated him. The dark light cage was like a rainbow partition. Flows of green energy weaved with each other, creating a thick mesh net. The energy in this net was incredibly dense. When Shiyang released his soul consciousness, he felt like he had sunk into a muddy puddle. He couldn't hear anything. McGee and Ghost Hunter were still bumping and attacking each other in the void. They presented Blackstone Island a fantastic firework party with tens of thousands of magnificent lights. McGee wasn't an impulsive person. While he was fighting Ghost Hunter, he intendedly left Blackstone Island, moving further to the South Sea. Shortly after, McGee and Ghost Hunter had left Blackstone Island, floating and sinking in the endless sea. They didn't turn back to their monster forms as they were still fighting using their humanoid forms. They were like two mighty war chariots barging into each other. They made the seawater boil, raising a tsunami, which was thousands of meters high. McGee has made progress, Gyumo agreed quietly. She looked at Shiyang next to her. He didn't focus on his cultivation. He had a lustful head. He often messed around. I didn't expect that after dozens of years, his application of power has reached this subtle level. Hasn't he had secluding cultivation lately? Shiyang was amazed, but he just smiled and said nothing. Only he knew that McGee's progress wasn't because of his ascetic cultivation but his soul being cleaned by soul-refining fluid, which had made his understanding of power much better. Well, it won't affect us anymore. Gyumo looked around and then parted her lips, drawing. The dark green light cage covering Shiyang turned into a flow of green liquid, disappearing into her cherry lips. Gyumo's eyes brightened when she suddenly flew towards the south beach of Blackstone Island. She landed firmly on a big rock. Shiyang hesitated for a while. Eventually, he flew up, standing by Gyumo and watching. Shortly after, the other warriors gathered from the previous battle site. They stood on the rocks scattered around the place to discuss. All were curious, watching the battle between McGee and Ghost Hunter. They were all excited, debating with each other to see who would be the winner. Some thought Ghost Hunter was stronger while others assumed McGee's power was fiercer. They had so many different opinions for their furious debate. Anyway, none of them were curious to know why McGee and Ghost Hunter had that fight. This surprised Yang a lot. The battle between the members of the monster clan doesn't need any reason to occur. You don't have any rules. Mo nodded, talking deliberately. Of course. Our monster clan refers to fight. Not only to foreigners but also to our own kinds. The method we apply to select the commander for each troop is only fighting. The stronger is the winner. If you think you're stronger than your captain, you can challenge him. If you succeed, you will take his place immediately. Pausing for a while, Mu smiled tenderly yet arrogantly. When we select the chief of the tribe, we also use this method. In both the evil dragon and brutal dragon tribes, the chief is always the strongest. There's no exception. Monster Clan uses this challenging system without any rule to maintain intimidation and welfare of the tribes. That's how we earned our position in Agate Star area. Yang nodded silently. Special, indeed. The Monster Clan had used a savage method, indeed. However, all the members of the clan respected this method and they lived up to it. Unlimited challenging combat could promote their physical strength. Although the Monster Clan had many disputes, this method could keep this clan thriving unceasingly as their warriors could earn position, status, and wealth through their real competences. From some aspect, this kind of encouragement was wise and it was the method to protect the foundation of a prosperous tribe. Young lady, a low, grumbling roar arose. They then saw a member of the Monster Clan come to them. He didn't look at Yang. He asked Mo directly. You stimulated McGee, didn't you? Mo smiled and admitted it. Yeah, I asked McGee to battle against Ghost Hunter. I wanted to see how strong Ghost Hunter was. Yang turned to see this monster expert. He was 3 meters tall with a spiky tail growing from his waist. His white hair draped his shoulder. He wore a set of heavy armor, which gave people a feeling of looking at an imposing mountain. This man was one of the warriors on the Flying Bird battleship who had sat right behind Ghost Hunter. He seemed to be a member of Ghost Hunter's squadron. Master Ghost Hunter came to Blackstone Island this time as ordered by our patriarch. He has an important mission. Young lady, you have a temper and you acted unreasonably. As Ghost Hunter and McGee are fighting, I'm afraid that it will cause a dispute. The man wore a cold face. He wasn't intimidated by Mo, the daughter of the patriarch of his tribe. He said in his low tone, McGee is from the evil dragon tribe and Master Hunter is our brutal dragon tribe's warlord. No matter what happens to any of them, it will cause a conflict between our tribe and the evil dragon tribe. McGee does have a sense of propriety. He won't escalate the battle to a critical point where one of them would die. Mo smiled, waving her hand casually. Werther, you worry too much. Nothing will happen unexpectedly. The monster expert called Werther darkened his face, snorted and then said, McGee knows how to behave, but I'm not sure if Master Ghost Hunter does. Mo was surprised, looking at him bewilderedly. Werther took a deep breath. A gleam of fear flashed in his eyes, which were really big like 2 bells. His iron-armored tail wagged uneasily on the ground, which crushed the rocks there into powder. Young lady, you're not close to him, so you don't know his characteristics. If he's enraged, he won't show mercy even if McGee is the son of the evil dragon tribe's patriarch. He will kill him for sure. Really? Mo's smile froze. She looked panic-stricken. Werther looked at Yang with cold eyes. He lowered his voice, hissing. Our master. He used to quarrel with a troop of the evil dragon tribe because they provoked him, saying that he was crossbreed. And what was the result? Mo felt uneasy. The result was that Master had chased that evil dragon troop for tens of thousands of miles and killed them. When we arrived at the scene, we saw no intact corpses. All of them were ripped apart. The scene was so haunting and nauseating. Werther stooped. His body shivered as if he didn't want to remember such a nightmare. Our master is very extreme. He doesn't have good feelings for the evil dragon tribe. It's possible that he could kill McGee in front of many people. Young lady, your unreasonable deed could initiate a war between the evil dragon tribe and us. Jiumo was scared. She suddenly realized how stupid she was to create this mess. She felt so worried, jabbering. I'm going to talk to McGee and you talk to Ghost Hunter. We should stop them. I can't dissuade Master. Werther beamed a forced smile, shaking his head. You can't, either. I came here to ask you to notify our patriarch. He must come here personally to solve this. Or else, when Master Ghost Hunter gets mad and kills McGee, the alliance that has been established tens of thousands of years between the evil dragon tribe and us will be smashed from that moment. Jiumo's small face paled. She bit her lower lip as she was worried and uneasy. She looked at the vast sea of black water star. She found that the battle of Ghost Hunter and McGee had come to the critical moment of life and death. Possibly, in the next moment, one of them would be hurt badly, and then one of them would be killed savagely. Jiumo was frightened. She knew that if the brutal dragon tribe and the evil dragon tribe tore their treaty and turned their backs to each other, what will happen to the entire monster clan? It means that the monster clan will be divided too, right? Her small, soft hand shivered as she was about to take something from her clothes. She wanted to contact her father so he could solve this matter quickly. Don't need to be hurried. However, at this moment, Shiyang spoke up after keeping quiet for a long time. I guarantee Ghost Hunter won't act unreasonably. Jiumo and Werther were baffled, looking at him oddly. Chapter 971. Stop there. Chapter 971. Stop there. __. Young lady, who's he? Monster Werther frowned and snorted disdainfully, his face cold, heavy word. Jiumo was baffled as she looked at Shiyang skeptically. Her bold brows furrowed as she didn't know what was going on. Even our chief has to use affection to persuade Master Ghost Hunter and use a soft voice. Only then will Master consider if he likes it or not. What are you? How dare you assure Master Ghost Hunter won't do things rashly? Kid, you don't want to live anymore, do you? How dare you brag with such haughty words? Werther felt so angry that his face was reddening. It looked like he would take action at any minute. He had followed Ghost Hunter for around 10 years, and had wholeheartedly supported the latter. He had a strong belief that Ghost Hunter would become the future leader of Monster Clan, who would bring the clan into a whole new era. His worship didn't have a logical reason. However, in Werther's mind, Ghost Hunter was unique. He admired and respected his leader's bloody and cruel deeds. Sometimes, he thought that Ghost Hunter's bloody way was tougher and manlier than the patriarch of the brutal dragon tribe. Ghost Hunter was his god. You don't know about the situation, so don't babble. Jiumo told Shiyang off, talking seriously. Even if your friendship with McGee isn't shallow, you can only advise him. Ghost Hunter isn't someone you can talk into doing something. You can't, and neither can I. I think my father can subdue the Ghost Hunter a little bit. The great ally of the brutal dragon tribe and the evil dragon tribe was the pillar of the monster clan in Agate Star area. If the two tribes had a war, it would be a badly unpredictable catastrophe. Brutal dragon tribe and evil dragon tribe had many other members of the monster clan depending on them. Many smaller branches of the monster clan had submitted to the brutal dragon tribe and evil dragon tribe. If the two clans became opponents, the monster clan would be divided into two forces. If they had a civil war, Monster Clan would move towards a decline eventually. This wasn't something Jiumo could take the responsibility of. Werther was so angry he wanted to kill Shiyang. In his eyes, Shiyang was now the biggest enemy of the Monster Clan. He was the troublemaker with the purpose of dividing the Monster Clan. He even thought that Shiyang was the reason why McGee provoked Ghost Hunter. I don't care who you are. You must die anyway. Werther took a deep breath as he prepared his lethal attack. He wanted to kill Shiyang at any cost. Jiumo discolored, hurrying to stop him. Don't. It's not because of him. He's McGee's friend, and he likes him a lot. Werther, you shouldn't interfere. I'm going to tell my father. I said I can stop this. You can choose to believe me or not. Shi Yang frowned, but he was actually happy inwardly. He had never thought that Ghost Hunter could have excellent achievements in Agate Star area. He had earned the brutal dragon tribe's trust, who considered him as their future leader. After that, he flew towards Ghost Hunter and McGee, talking without turning his face around to look at Gu Mo and Werther. Ghost Hunter and I are old acquaintances. Werther and Gu Mo were bewildered. They were still perplexed, looking at his back skeptically. However, they didn't know what was going on. Go. We should go there and talk to them. Gu Mo hesitated for a while before deciding quickly. She flew up quickly, passing Shi Yang and heading towards the battle site. Werther wore a cold face as a fire of anger rolled in his eyes. He soared up into the sky, and glared at him maliciously when he passed Shi Yang. Kid, if you dare deceive us, I will show you what I have got. Gu Mo and Werther shot rapidly towards Ghost Hunter and McGee, who were crazily attacking and wreaking havoc. They felt restless and anxious. Many warriors from the other areas saw the three of them and were surprised, starting to discuss boisterously. Over there, the battle between McGee and Ghost Hunter had come to its climax. The two of them now used their real abilities. While they were mobilizing energy, a tremendous amount of heaven and earth energy of Blackstone Island rose like a torrential tide, pouring into the two of them. The supplied energy made the two new talents of the monster clan seem like furious, erupting volcanoes. They seemed about to destroy the whole Blackwater Star. McGee seemed to be falling into a disadvantaged situation. Ghost Hunter punched him, blowing him to the seabed. However, every time McGee soared up back from the sea, he could gather a stronger power. Their battle had come to a critical stage. It was time of life or death. McGee, it's enough. Gu Mo suddenly screamed, her beautiful face icy cold. I told you to try a bit. I didn't tell you to risk your life. Stop here. I don't need your support anymore. You said enough, so you think it's enough? McGee thundered angrily. He didn't give Gu Mo face, wiping the blood trickle on his mouth. I have suffered a loss, and I want to take it back. F***CK. I'm this big, and I've never been hurt by anyone whose realm's lower than mine. If I can't make him pay a big price for that, I will feel annoyed for the rest of my life. McGee roared, storming towards Ghost Hunter again. Gu Mo was so worried as if she had a flame burning her heart. Werther hovered behind her, his face begging. He didn't have the bearings like when was talking to Shi Yang. He stooped his head while screaming, Master, please stop. I'm begging you. McGee's the son of Evil Dragon Tribe's patriarch. If you kill him, the Evil Dragon Tribe will turn their back on us. Master, for me who has been following you for years, please, do me a little favor. Please spare McGee. Ghost Hunter acted as if he didn't see or hear Werther. He didn't even give him a glance. He still gazed at McGee, striking crazily. Each blow of his was enough to smash the whole world. He made the seawater boil, shaking the entire Blackwater Star. Werther seemed to know what would happen. He sighed and screamed continually. You mother*****. You're too haughty. I have just left for a few decades. When did I fall into that lower situation? Asking him to spare my life? The one whose realm's lower than mine? I can't stand such humiliation, McGee shouted, becoming even more enraged. Both Ghost Hunter and McGee didn't listen to Werther and Gu Mo. They started to attack each other again, their battle becoming fiercer. Gu Mo and Werther's advice didn't work. It couldn't bring the desired result. Instead, it was more like pouring oil into a fire as the battle reached the most dangerous point. Ghost Hunter and McGee had their body covered in blood while fighting against each other. Suddenly, they all roared, returning to their monster form. The two terrifying and intimidating monsters appeared in the sea. Evil Dragon McGee was several thousand meters long, his body covered in scales. The horns on his head were sharp and shiny like metals, with beautiful lights moving around. Each scale on his body started to absorb heaven and earth energy, giving him an imposing aura that could threaten people. Ghost Hunter's real form was just several meters long. However, he had spikes and thorns all over his body. His body was covered in some kind of thick and rigid bone shells that looked like quenched metals. At first glance, people knew he had annealed his body for many times. It was obvious that his true form was also a dragon. Beams of energy murmured like small flowing streams on his body. Energy fluctuated from him immensely and earth-shakingly. It felt like his body hid many volcanoes that could erupt at any minute, giving him the intimidating and brutal energy. When the monster warriors turned back to their true form, it was a sign of a life-or-death battle. As McGee and Ghost Hunter had transformed, they were prepared to release their strongest attack. Boom! Rumble! Rumble! The two giant bodies barged into each other, entangling and wrestling. Their powerful and fierce energy impacted, sending sparks and lights everywhere. This sea area was stirred up formidably. Vortexes started to appear in the sea, and tsunamis rose high in the sky. These two warriors of the monster clan seemed ready to destroy the Blackwater Star. Their formidable auras had scared people out of their wits. The onlookers all admired and respected their power no matter what. Watching the two of them change to their monster form and attack each other wildly, Gumo and Werther were frightened out of their wits, their hearts beating anxiously. Gumo's small face was as pale as white paper. She was so panic-stricken at this moment, hurrying to report this to her father. She hoped her father could come and advise Ghost Hunter. She also cursed McGee for not giving her face. Werther was so flurried that he didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he looked back and saw Shiyang sauntering as if he were taking a walk in the park. With a ferocious face, he seemed to find a place to vent out at, shouting, "You caused all of these. I'll kill you first." Gumo hated Shiyang because he had stopped her from reporting to her father in the first place. Seeing Werther about to kill him, she didn't bother to interfere, as she thought that Shiyang deserved it. "McGee, do me a favor. Stop here." Suddenly, Shiyang pitched his voice and screamed before Werther attacked him. McGee and Ghost Hunter were still wrestling. Hearing Shiyang's voice, McGee struggled in his mind for a while before shouting, "Bro, I want to give you face, but, if he doesn't want to stop here, I have no choice." Gumo and Werther were bewildered. They were so confused. Since when had McGee become that easy to talk into things? That hot-tempered fellow was famous for his annoyance. Besides his father, he had never submitted to anyone. What scared them the most was still to follow. "Ghost Hunter, stop here," Shiyang said the second time. While entangling with McGee, Ghost Hunter turned around to look, perplexed. Dazzling lights shot out from his monster eyes as he gazed at Shiyang without blinking. He halted as if he had turned into a rock. McGee and Ghost Hunter both stopped. The atmosphere was oddly quiet, and people could only hear the two monster experts panting. Gumo and Werther gawked, dropping their jaws. They looked at Shiyang, then at Ghost Hunter, who was held as if he had turned into a fossil. The bone-chilling, clear green eyes of Ghost Hunter reflected Shiyang's image. His eyes flashed, turning watery. The mouth with many teeth opened as he stopped panting, still looking baffled. Energy stopped impacted above the sea, as a result of which, the water slowly calmed down and the vortexes disappeared. The whole place was so quiet they could even hear the sound of a needle falling. Ghost Hunter looked at Shiyang like that, as an unknown, fierce affection appeared in his eyes. After a long moment, he got rid of McGee, flying anxiously to Shiyang. He proactively lowered his body and floated beneath Shiyang's feet. He slowly adjusted his body until his back touched Shiyang's feet. He had let Shiyang put his feet on his back, so he could be Shiyang's mount. This was the gesture of the humblest submission of the Monster Clan's members. The entire sea area was quiet. Onlookers from different clans in the Blackstone Island were petrified. The glass of wine fell on the ground from someone's hand, but he didn't realize it. Time seemed to have paused at this moment. Chapter 972. After all, who is he? Chapter 972. After all, who is he? Werther was astounded. He couldn't help but rub his eyes, wanting to confirm what he was watching was real or not. Is that our master Ghost Hunter? He instinctively asked himself. His face was bitter, as he shook his head. Werther had followed Ghost Hunter for around 10 years. In his eyes, Ghost Hunter was mighty and bloodthirsty, who would never bow to anybody, including the chief of Brutal Dragon Tribe. However, today, the master he worshipped was humbly submitting under Shi Yang's feet. His master had used the modest attitude to respect the other. His master had proactively given his back under Shi Yang's feet. This was a sign of submission that came from the heart. A ghost hunter like that was strange to him. Ji Mo's small face was stiff. She thought she was in a dream, so she bit her lower lip. When the pain came through her nerves, she finally confirmed she was in the real world. What's going on? Ji Mo hadn't known Ghost Hunter for a long time. However, she idolized his performance and all sort of savage deeds in the Brutal Dragon Tribe. She was keen on thinking that he was her best match. She had never thought that Ghost Hunter would submit to anyone wholeheartedly. In her eyes, an imposing and domineering man like Ghost Hunter was predestined to step on the highest peak. He wouldn't let any force bind him. Crawling under a man's feet was impossible to her. However, it happened right in front of her, which gave her a bitter feeling. She felt sorry because of Ghost Hunter. A formidable existence like you should never submit to anyone. Absolutely never. Ji Mo screamed crazily in her mind. McGee slowly transformed into his human form, with blood streaming down his body. He wiped the blood trickle on the corner of his mouth, standing by Ji Mo and Werther. Lights weaved in his eyes, his face confused and complicated. The fierce battle with Ghost Hunter made him believe in Ji Mo's vision. He knew Ghost Hunter did have fame and power. This newly emerged foreign monster warrior did have the power to reach the peak of glory. Towards Ghost Hunter, he had a subtle feeling between strong warriors. Although Ghost Hunter's realm was one level lower than his, he wasn't weaker than McGee in that fight. McGee had no prejudice towards Ghost Hunter. After this battle, he had considered the latter as his fiercest rival. However, when the rival he respected submitted beneath Shi Yang's feet wholeheartedly and freely, this kind of humble head-down posture somehow shamed him. Experts living in Blackstone Island and the other life stars around became baffled. They looked at the sight with confused eyes. They had no clue of what was going on. Staying on the Flying Bird battleship, the monster troops under Ghost Hunter's commands were outraged. They looked at Ghost Hunter as if he had become a strange person to them, all having an odd countenance. They didn't know what had happened back there. Shi Yang stood on the spiky neck of Ghost Hunter, his face as calm as water. He instinctively patted Ghost Hunter's massive head and sighed distantly. "I thought you had forgotten me. A servant for one day, a servant for a lifetime." Ghost Hunter's voice was husky and cold. It felt like someone rubbed a stone on a piece of metal. His voice was sharp and unpleasant to the ear. However, in Shi Yang's ears, it was so comfortable. He didn't talk loudly, but McGee, Ji Mo, and Werther could hear him clearly. They were so shocked, light sparkling in their eyes as they were outraged. Swoosh. Ghost Hunter opened his mouth and spat out something. A jade token with the brutal dragon carving of the Brutal Dragon Tribe flew out of his terrifying mouth, floating in front of Ji Mo and Werther. "This is the war token. Please return it to the chief. From now on, I'm not a member of the Brutal Dragon Tribe anymore. I will no longer be the captain of this squadron." That year, the chief and I had an agreement. I can leave the Brutal Dragon Tribe whenever I want. Please explain to him. Ghost Hunter's voice was as cold as ice. It was a little bit harsh and bone-chilling. That jade token was the captain's identification card in the Brutal Dragon Tribe's force. It was also the sign of a future elder. There were only 7 of them in Brutal Dragon Tribe, which was significant indeed. The jade tokens in the Brutal Dragon Tribe were the insignia of power and status. Every single one of them was so precious. People who held the jade token were all influential members of the Brutal Dragon Tribe, and they did have real powers. Their status was high also for the other clans living in the life stars around. They could access the Great Star areas freely and enjoy the privileges of Brutal Dragon Tribe. Werther and Ji Mo were startled, their face grimaced. As Ghost Hunter returned his jade token, he had decided to separate from the Brutal Dragon Tribe. He had helped brutal dragon tribe destroy their enemies for years. He had killed so many brutal and powerful opponents, which granted him the Jade Token after rounds of discussion among the elders of the brutal dragon tribe last year. This Jade Token represented his official admission in the brutal dragon tribe. He had finally received the approval of this strongest tribe of the monster clan. To bestow him this Jade Token, the chief of brutal dragon tribe had spent a lot of his efforts to eliminate the troubles that came from the majority of the tribe's elders. He didn't hesitate to use bloody methods to suppress them. Later on, Ghost Hunter earned this special glory. However, after seeing Shi Yang and talking not even 2 sentences to the man, he had returned the Jade Token, which he had earned through bloody difficulties. He declared his wish to separate from the brutal dragon tribe, which was like a slap on Werther's and Gyumo's face. They now had an everlasting bitter grievance in their minds. "Sir." Werther shivered as he hastily kneeled down in the air and lifted his face to look directly into Ghost Hunter's eyes. He said stubbornly, "The Jade Token represents the supreme glory of the brutal dragon tribe. Sir, you have experienced countless bloody battles, stepping on piles of bodies to get it. How could you give it up that easily?" Gyumo's face changed. She was outraged looking at Ghost Hunter. Her usual soft voice was gone as she talked sharply. "Ghost Hunter, what are you doing? You know what the brutal dragon token represents. It's the supreme glory of our brutal dragon tribe." Ghost Hunter's deep green eyes were as calm as water. He looked at Werther and Gyumo, talking deliberately. "I'm not a member of the brutal dragon tribe. Before I joined the tribe, I've made it clear to the patriarch that I may leave at any time. Today, the one I had been waiting for has come. Naturally, I won't stay in the brutal dragon tribe anymore. Please tell the chief that Ghost Hunter has failed his expectations." McGee frowned tightly, looking at the Jade Token hovering in the air. His eyes seemed so strange. Taking a deep breath, McGee talked to Shi Yang seriously. "Bro, there are 7 brutal dragon tokens. It's like the identification card of the strongest warlords of the tribe. It represents power and glory of brutal dragon tribe. Do you understand?" The monster eyes of Ghost Hunter sparkled ferociously as he gazed at McGee coldly while hissing, "Shut up." McGee discolored, snorting. However, he was looking at Shi Yang. Werther and Gyumo couldn't help but also look at Shi Yang. At this moment, they understood that an arrogant fellow like Ghost Hunter would never mind their opinions. Only Shi Yang's words seemed to be able to bind him. This man who came out of nowhere had made Ghost Hunter submit to him. He could control Ghost Hunter's will and decision. It was unimaginable. Even the chief of the brutal dragon tribe couldn't restrain Ghost Hunter that way. Under the gaze of McGee, Werther, and Gyumo, Shi Yang contemplated for a while. He chuckled and extended his hand to pull the air. He grabbed the brutal dragon token, which represented the high-rank captain of the tribe, and studied it. He then tenderly put it on Ghost Hunter's spiky neck, speaking softly, "Ghost Hunter and I want to talk a bit." McGee, Gyumo, and Werther were surprised. They looked at him, but said nothing else, proactively flying away. Shi Yang frowned, patting Ghost Hunter's head. Ghost Hunter faced the sky and roared. His roar was like a lightning strike that could clean up and level the place. His voice shook the sky as he rocketed immediately, disappeared from people's sight. McGee, Werther, and Gyumo went down to the shore of the Blackstone Island. Gyumo was so irritated. Looking at the crowd around them, her eyes became savage, shouting angrily, "Get the F***CK out of here." Werther and McGee couldn't stay calm. Murderous auras twinkled in their eyes, looking at the onlookers with obviously evil intents. Members of the other tribes from the surrounding lifestars discolored. They stooped, fleeing away like the low tide. In a short while, no one stayed. Only Ghost Hunter's troopers started to gather from the flying bird battleship, looking at Werther and Gyumo anxiously. They wanted to say something but didn't know how. Gyumo took a deep breath. Her generous breast bounced slightly as she gritted her teeth while looking at McGee. "After all, who is he?" Werther also looked at McGee. "I don't actually know." Under the others' gazes, McGee smiled reluctantly, I met him by chance in the space crack. He's saved me twice. This man is really dangerous. He's mysterious indeed. Seems like he's somehow related to Blood Devil. Blood Devil? Gu Mo, Werther, and the others discolored in fright. They felt even worse as the situation had developed out of their reach. This star area had many prominent clans. The Monster Clan, Demon Clan, and Ice Clan lived here. Brutal Dragon Tribe and Evil Dragon Tribe were the two strongest tribes of Monster Clan. Blood Devil was the overlord devil of Demon Clan, so his status and power weren't less than the chiefs of the two dragon tribes. And his personal relationship with the two tribes was always good. Blood Devil was the great character of Demon Clan. In Agate Star area, he was famous indeed. And he liked to cover for his fellows. He would take revenge for even the smallest grudge. Hearing that Shi Yang and Blood Devil were related, Gu Mo was so worried that she pulled her hair instinctively, her face dark. It's really troublesome. Even if it's Blood Devil, he has no right to make master separate from Brutal Dragon Tribe. Werther clenched his jaw, talking indignantly. My master will surely be the new shining star of the Monster Clan. He's one of the future leaders of Monster Clan. Since he got the Brutal Dragon token, he's the hotshot of our Brutal Dragon Tribe. What does that kid have to make my master submit to him? Gu Mo agreed as she nodded to him, talking firmly. Yeah, it's true. Blood Devil doesn't have this right. McGee was bewildered for a while. He looked at the other two with an odd countenance. It's not my bro who subdued him. He's done that on his own, hasn't he? He requested to leave the Brutal Dragon Tribe. He said that you guys have an agreement. I think you should talk to Uncle clearly. Werther was petrified and baffled, unable to answer. Gu Mo hesitated for a while, and eventually took out a sound stone. She took a deep breath to force herself calm down before connecting with her father. McGee and Werther looked at her, their faces respectful. They proactively stepped back, giving her space. That was how they showed respect to the chief. However, their eyes hadn't left Gu Mo. They observed her facial expression to see what the chief of the Brutal Dragon Tribe would direct. Chapter 973, Master and Servant. Chapter 973, Master and Servant. Deep inside the Black Ocean, a massive light cage made of star energy covered Shi Yang and Ghost Hunter, who had transformed into his humanoid form. Ghost Hunter slight bent his head, telling Shi Yang what he had experienced throughout those years in a low and cold voice. After Ghost Hunter, king of demonic insects, holy spirit god, and devouring gold silkworm separated from Shi Yang, they came to Heavenly Demon Mountain Range in the Vault of Heaven Sea area, and received the mysterious inheritance of the Monster Clan. They escaped the space barrier in that demonic formation, which led them to the Shadow Ghostly Prison in Agate Star area. Shadow Ghostly Prison was the most chaotic and peculiar area of the Agate Star area. Rumors said that it was the space hub that connected the Agate Star area to other star areas. It had many space channels. They had crossed one of such space channels and landed in the Shadow Ghostly Prison. Shadow Ghostly Prison was established by many primitive races of Agate Star area. Later on, many other races had joined the area from other star areas, which mostly got through the space channels. Shadow Ghostly Prison was rich, having various resources. It had many rare cultivating materials that were hard to find in the Agate Star area. Warriors had battled for heaven and earth energy and magical natural resources. Since Shadow Ghostly Prison had many strange and precious products, wars never ended there. The four peculiar existences of Ghost Hunter's group had to struggle hard to survive in the Shadow Ghostly Prison. After many difficult fights, King of Demonic Insects, Holy Spirit God, and Devouring Gold Silkworm were killed. Only Ghost Hunter was lucky enough to survive until now. Eventually, he escaped the Shadow Ghostly Prison, coming to this place where monster tribes were gathered, and thus made his debut in Monster Dragon Star. Monster Dragon Star was the central star of the Monster Clan in Agate Star area. Members of the Brutal Dragon Tribe and Evil Dragon Tribe lived in the massive Monster Dragon Star. Many other powerful tribes of the Monster Clan also stayed and cultivated here. After Ghost Hunter arrived here, He raised a bloody reign in Monster Dragonstar. Eventually, Gute, chief of Brutal Dragon Tribe, recruited Ghost Hunter with his keen eyes, making him the warlord of the Brutal Dragon Tribe. He conquered many areas for the Brutal Dragon Tribe. Gute and Ghost Hunter had an agreement that year. He agreed to help Ghost Hunter take revenge. He would support Ghost Hunter to invade the Shadow Ghostly Prison and uproot the force that had killed King of Demonic Insects, Holy Spirit God, and Devouring Gold Silkworm. The condition was that Ghost Hunter had to join the Brutal Dragon Tribe. As Ghost Hunter wanted to take revenge for his comrades, he agreed with Gute's condition. After around 10 years of fighting from north to south, he had earned merits for the Brutal Dragon Tribe. Gradually, he got the approval of the entire Brutal Dragon Tribe. That was how he received a Brutal Dragon token, which represented his high status in the tribe. Ghost Hunter came to Blackwater Star this time to destroy one of the Brutal Dragon Tribe's enemies. He was about to attack a branch of the Sea Clan, which had unilaterally broken the treaty while trading with Brutal Dragon Tribe. King of Demonic Insects, Holy Spirit God, and Devouring Gold Silkworm were all dead, hearing which, Shi Yang felt totally absent-minded. A bitter grief rose from the bottom of his heart. He gritted his teeth until it generated squeaking noises, his face turning ferocious. Different images crossed his mind. He met the King of Demonic Insects, and befriended the Holy Spirit God and the Devouring Gold Silkworm. All old stories suddenly emerged deep in his soul, and he couldn't get rid of them. Hearing that his old friends were all dead, Shi Yang felt like a nerve of his was pinched. His eyes became as cold as ice. This made him more placid in recognizing himself. This place was the Agate Star area, with countless clans and experts, and he wasn't the strongest. In this place, he didn't have the powers to protect his fellows yet. He was crying inwardly. The immortal demon blood in his body was boiling as if it were burning. His eyes turned garnet like an enraged beast, and he looked lunatic indeed. I will take revenge for them. Shi Yang stressed each word. Ghost Hunter nodded heavily. Master, I met your lady in the Shadow Ghostly Prison. She helped me escape the Shadow Ghostly Prison that year. Ghost Hunter hesitated for a while, his eyes cold and dark. He slightly bent his head, talking. Master's lady has become a noble of a force. She has power and force, and has also earned a title. Shi Yang's pupils shrank. My lady. Lady Xia, Ghost Hunter lowered his voice, explaining. Shi Yang was shaken. Ghost Hunter stooped and said nothing as he looked at Shi Yang, silently waiting for him to digest the news. It's Xia Xin Yang. Countless vehement memories flooded his mind. Shi Yang felt a strange and unknown pain. It was like someone had knocked down some bottles of different ingredients in his heart, as he felt so many feelings mixed together. It had been so many years. When he got the news of that person the second time, he didn't expect she would be in the Shadow Ghostly Prison. She had a force, and she had become a noble. Sweet and bitter memories appeared in his heart as he felt so low. Sitting indifferently for a while, Shi Yang took a deep breath, his face becoming maliciously resolute. For the time being, you shouldn't separate from the Brutal Dragon Tribe. You have your world, and Brutal Dragon Tribe can make you thrive. When you've reached a higher level, you will become the leader of the Monster Clan. Ghost Hunter looked at him bewilderedly. We will fight shoulder to shoulder in the Agate Star area. But, we don't need to be together every moment. I'm not sure if you can grow better by following me than right now. Shi Yang pondered for a while and then explained, we will make efforts to take revenge for the three of them. You use your way, and I will use mine. Don't worry, we won't be far from each other. I'm going to the Devil Blood Star. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll stay in Devil Blood Star. I have some relation with Blood Devil. Ghost Hunter's green eyes brightened slowly. As he had been in the area for years, he knew Blood Devil. He was surprised and happy on hearing that his master and Blood Devil had some relation. At this moment, you should stay with the Brutal Dragon Tribe and accumulate your force. You should make efforts to gain the powers of the Monster Clan. Shi Yang's face was calm and cold like water. I will go my way to accumulate force. In the future, we will be the main forces of the Agate Star area. I strongly believe that we can swagger here and there in this high-level star area in a not-so-distant future. I'm on it, Master, Ghost Hunter nodded quietly. You continue to stay and work for the brutal dragon tribe. I'm heading to Devil Bloodstar to arrange stuff. It's the best if you can conceal our relationship. Since the chief of brutal dragon tribe trusts you, he won't change his mind, Shiyang contemplated and continued. McGee and I have a good friendship. Evil Dragon Tribe is also one of the strongest forces of the Monster Clan. If you can become the leader of Monster Clan in the future, Evil Dragon Tribe will be one of your powerful hands. You should try to get them on your side. Ghost Hunter nodded again. The two of them discussed Undersea. After a long time, they came up with an agreement. Before Shiyang left, he had a premonition. He thought, then flickered his mind. Drops of scarlet immortal demon blood flew out like jewels, filled with pure soul energy. A magical connection that could cross all space distances strongly elongated towards Shadow Ghostly Prison. A familiar aura transmitted from Shadow Ghostly Prison fell into his sea of consciousness, heading towards the deep area of his soul. In the Shadow Ghostly Prison, several hundred massive battleships were anchored above a giant asteroid. Sitting on a pink crystal throne atop one of those gigantic battleships was a woman in a brilliant gown. She was holding a glass, her deep and beautiful eyes looking at the endless star sea while being absorbed in her thoughts. Her gorgeous long dress was beautified with jewels. Exquisite and precious flowers were embroidered at the hem of her dress. She let her flawless legs bare, wearing only 2 blue crystal anklets. The energy from her anklets had a tremendous fluctuation, adding to her elegant beauty. 3 pagans kneeled by her, reporting with the logbooks they were holding. They all looked humble. The beautiful woman took a sip from her blood-like wine glass. The red color of the wine gave her pink lips moisture, making her look like the most beautiful blooming flower. However, her crystal-clear, diamond-like eyes were hiding some sadness. Yet, her indifferent and cold bearings had subdued the 3 alien clansmen in front of her. They didn't even dare to look up at her. They were modest, trying to explain her furthermore. Suddenly, the beautiful woman seemed to feel something. Her gorgeous eyes sparkled dazzlingly while her flawless body shivered. She couldn't help but jolt up from her seat. Her jade-like feet stepped on the precious pink throne, alluring people's souls. She looked in the general direction of the black water star far away as the cold intent on her face vanished slowly. The red wine in her glass swirled for a while. After a long moment, she was thrilled, bowing her head and whining, You have finally come. I've been waiting for you for so long." The joy she couldn't hide in her face had baffled the other 3. They were indeed surprised. Drops of immortal demon blood evaporated in the light cage as Shiyang opened his eyes. He was stirred up, mumbling to himself. "You're here." Ghost Hunter sat quietly and indifferently like a rock next to Shiyang. He just looked at his master, saying nothing. "Let's go." After a while, Shiyang got up, wiping out the light cage. Both of them shot out of the seabed, heading north of Blackstone Island. On Blackstone Island, Gu Mo, Werther, and McGee were longing for them, their faces all odd. "Sir," as soon as Werther saw Ghost Hunter, his straight back bent while he lowered his head to show his respect. "Ghost Hunter, my father sent a message saying that he doesn't want you to separate from Brutal Dragon Tribe. He said that no matter what old stories you have, he won't ask a thing. As long as you stay with the Brutal Dragon Tribe and keep the Brutal Dragon token, you're a warlord of our tribe." Gu Mo's small face was serious as she continued, "My father said that this time when you go back to Monster Dragon Star, he would give you a life star. You will have the complete authority over it." Ghost Hunter wore an impassive face. Facing these people, he was as cold as the rigid ice. He seemed to not have any emotion. After Gu Mo finished, he just nodded. Gu Mo and Werther were cheered up. "Thank you, sir. You didn't abandon us. Thank you for your favor." The monster soldiers under Ghost Hunter's command kneeled down, shouting crazily. Their voices shook the Blackstone Island. Ghost Hunter was still indifferent. "McGee, I want to go to the Devil Bloodstar. See you later." Shiyang nodded to McGee while chuckling. "Do me a favor. Do not compete with Ghost Hunter. He's the closest friend of mine. How dare I quarrel with him? McGee smiled miserably. However, he became cheered up all of a sudden. Our monster dragon star and the devil blood star aren't far from each other. I'm going to find you later. If you need me, you can always come to Monster Dragonstar to find me. Sure, Shi Yang agreed seriously. He smiled at Jiu Mo, Werther, and then gazed at Ghost Hunter for a while. Then, he soared up into the sky, tearing the atmosphere like a lightning strike while heading to Devil Bloodstar. Ghost Hunter lifted his head looking at Shi Yang disappearing. Afterward, he shouted at his troopers with a brutal face. Work! Werther and many soldiers of Monster Clan replied to him grumblingly. Their murderous aura rose violently as they were about to jump into the sea to eradicate a branch of the Sea Clan that had deceived the brutal dragon tribe. Chapter 974, Potion and Tool Pavilion. Chapter 974, Potion and Tool Pavilion. The vast galaxy had countless shining stars. The star areas opened infinitely. Sometimes, battleships flew rapidly like shuttles or lightning. Shi Yang sat cross-legged on a small meteorolite, closing his eyes to feel earth and heaven energy changing. His meteorite was moving like an electric light towards the general direction of Devil Bloodstar. Rolling energy transmitted to this asteroid through his feet made it move forward. Shortly after, Shi Yang opened his eyes and exhaled slightly. Touching the fantasy sky ring on his finger, an old, yellowed book flew out. It was the ancient book that they found from the mysterious city in Old Orchid Star. It wasn't rotten after being buried for tens of thousands of years with the city. This book was written in unknown, tadpole-like characters. Shi Yang didn't know if this kind of language belonged to any race. He used to spend time studying this book. However, he couldn't figure out any mysteries of these ancient tadpole characters. He had kept this book in his fantasy sky ring for a long time afterward. Lately, when he was trying to sense the changes of earth and heaven, he suddenly felt the tadpole words in the book seem to revive. Opening the book and holding it in his hand, Shi Yang focused and observed. Shi Yang saw the tadpole scriptures and they seemed like living creatures. They slowly wiggled on the cover of that ancient book. It looked strange and mysterious, indeed. Deep in his eyes was astonishment. Shi Yang quietly released a beam of energy, sending it to the cover of the ancient book to see if he could find something. However, as soon as he had sent his energy into the book, the tadpole characters stopped moving. They quieted down and stayed still like they were dead. Shi Yang let out a low scream in surprise. He pulled himself together, frowning and pouring more soul consciousness into the book. His sea of consciousness was suddenly disordered. Flows of his soul consciousness entangled chaotically, numbing his brain. Looking at the ancient book, he saw the tadpole words move quickly. They looked like many lightning strikes crossing the page. Staring at the ancient book, Shi Yang's sea of consciousness became more chaotic and his consciousness blurred. After changing his face slightly, Shi Yang retrieved his soul consciousness. While his mind flickered, he put a flow of confining space power into the book. The book was sealed for the moment with space power. All the tadpole characters were blocked. They couldn't move anymore. He was skeptical, retrieving the ancient book into his fantasy sky ring. Shi Yang lifted his face to watch the immense star sea. He closed his eyes and was absorbed in his thoughts. A massive battleship around 5,000 meters long was moving not far from him. It was entirely black and it seemed to be made of some black ink metal. This battleship had several hundred barrier layers. On two sides, it had many flagpoles with silk banners drawn with various types of utensils like swords, sabers, containers, or war chariot. The massive battleship moved forward inaudibly in the dim-lit star sea. It had no beam of extra energy sent to the environment. It was also heading to Devil Bloodstar like a ghost. Inside a secret chamber in the battleship was an elegant lady in her loose and long dress. The sleeves and legs of her green garments were all extra loose to hide her mesmerizing body. She was clapping her hands in front of her chest, her slender fingers like scallion making hand seals. Her eyes were deep blue and calm like the ocean. Her long brown hair was pinned up into a gorgeous bun, held by an emerald hairpin. She looked elegant and noble, indeed. She had a pair of crescent moon crystal earrings. She wore 5-colored jade rings around her delicate wrists, which looked like lotus roots. She also had some small but delicate accessories hung on her waist. All these ornaments made her lively and incredibly charming. A corner of the yellowed sheet of paper she was holding was revealed, which had scriptures with characters that looked like tadpoles. Her willow-like eyebrows above her deep blue eyes furrowed as if she was mulling on something. A white light seeped from her fingers as she concentrated her soul to recognize something. After a while, she stooped and sighed, shaking her head and whining. "I'm afraid it was just a hallucination. The canon had been lost for tens of thousands of years. How could I sense it for that glimpse of time?" Thump, thump, thump. Someone was knocking on her chalcedony door, which was inlaid with many strange symbols. The one who was knocking seemed to be very careful not to bother that woman. The woman was still calm and natural. Her flawless hands retrieved the light and carefully put the sheet of paper away. She relaxed and then called, "Come in." An old woman with ditch-like wrinkles throughout her face bowed and went to the center of this battleship. "Young elder, we will arrive at Devil Bloodstar in 3 months. Do you want to stop somewhere along the way?" The woman shook her head with a smile. "No, we shouldn't stop. We've delayed a long time already." The old woman nodded. She immediately excused herself. Wait a moment, the woman wanted to say something, but she didn't. Instead, she whispered, "Aunt, and lately, I seem to sense a gleam of—" "What?" The old woman looked at her with surprise. The lady shook her head. "Nothing." The old woman smiled lovingly. She didn't mind and just bowed before carefully leaving the place. She seemed afraid of accidentally making noise. She also closed the door with extra care. The woman in the room ridiculed herself. "How could I sense the canon, which was lost for tens of thousands of years? It's just a hallucination then," she instinctively assumed. Shi Yang was riding a meteorite, flying towards the general direction of Devil Bloodstar. All of a sudden, he lifted his head, looking forward with a surprise in his eyes. In front of him was a battleship inaudibly moving at breakneck speed. If it hadn't come close enough to be visible, Shi Yang wouldn't have known that a battleship was close to him. Usually, the battleship would use high-quality divine crystals as fuel. Hotshots would guard and patrol the battleship. Both the divine crystals and warriors had energy fluctuate from them. Within a specific distance, the other warriors could sense them easily. However, this battleship emerged in his sight while his soul consciousness reported nothing to him. It was indeed magical. Frowning, he released a beam of soul consciousness, extending towards the battleship. Spark. A fire sparked from the barrier covering the battleship. Although it was dim, it had stopped Shi Yang's sensing. Shi Yang's eyes brightened. He looked at the battleship with astonishment. Evidently, that battleship wasn't normal. It was several times bigger and had barriers that could prevent soul consciousness. The barriers had shut the entire battleship, including people inside. This protection made the ship move inaudibly without noise caused by the engine or energy fluctuating from warriors. It was like a spooky ghost drifting in the dim-lit universe. This was a high-class battleship, indeed. In the case of war between star areas, this kind of invisible battleship could perform extraordinarily. At the moment fire sparked from the barrier outside the battleship, a vague silhouette came out from a dark area of the ship. He looked at Shi Yang from a distance as if he was assessing the man. After a while, that person crossed the barrier and emerged visibly from the ship. He was a lanky, middle-aged man with a lot of disgusting smallpox-like filled bumps on his face. He was a little hunched, squinting to observe Shi Yang better. The meteorite under Shi Yang's feet was still moving quickly. It slowed down and approached the battleship. While the lanky man observed Shi Yang also watched him. First Sky of Ethereal God Realm, cultivates Thunderbolt Power Upanishad, newly formed ethereal extent. Information regarding this man's competence emerged in Shi Yang's head. He didn't know why, but after his soul altar was refined and became crystal clear by the effects of soul-refining fluid, he was able to easily understand the realm and kinds of power Upanishads of the warriors around him. The middle-aged man whose face was filled with smallpox bumps stared at Shi Yang for a while before asking proactively, "Little brother, where do you want to go?" Shi Yang was surprised as he didn't know what the other had in his mind. He hesitated for a while and then smiled casually, "I'm heading to Devil Bloodstar." "Hey!" The middle-aged man was surprised. He smiled, waving at Shi Yang. "We're going there, too. Do you want to take a ride with us?" Shi Yang was touched. He considered for a while. After he had left Blackwater Star, he had been racing like a lightning strike, which had consumed a lot of his energy. At this moment, he had used half of his accumulation to fly. If he could have a place to rest and recover his energy, it would be much better. However, since Shi Yang couldn't identify the other's intention or identify, he was a little bit hesitant. "We're from the Potion and Tool Pavilion." As he could see Shi Yang's hesitation, he explained. Shi Yang's eyes brightened. The Potion and Tool Pavilion was a unique force in Agate Star area. It was established by top alchemists and blacksmiths of Agate Star area. Most of the pellets, war chariots, battleships, and various kinds of containers were manufactured and sold by this organization. Potion and Tool Pavilion had never participated in racial battles between forces of Agate Star area. They were the simplest businessmen and businesswomen who had focused only on refining medicines and weapons. They had maintained good relationships with great clans everywhere. Battleships and war chariots that Ari Fu got in Broken Star City were manufactured by Potion and Tool Pavilion. Divine Light bought them and transported them to Broken Star City in Far West region. They earned profits from the price difference. Potion and Tool Pavilion had only cooperated with the strongest clans in Agate Star area. They wouldn't bat an eye on the small forces. Although Ari Fu of Broken Star City was famous in the Far West region, he wasn't strong enough to do business with Potion and Tool Pavilion. Businessmen like Ari Fu could only buy battleships and war chariots made by Potion and Tool Pavilion through bigger traders like Divine Light. This special force always stayed neutral. Since they had never engaged in any competition besides doing business, no one had ever known its real competence. However, no strong forces or clans in Agate Star area dared to offend the Potion and Tool Pavilion since medicine, containers, and other products of this organization had taken account of almost all goods sold in the entire star area. At the same time, it had maintained good relationships with big clans. Once any clan broke this relationship, even if they were so rich, they wouldn't be able to purchase any medicine or battleships. The Potion and Tool Pavilion had a good reputation. They always kept a good relationship with their customers. Even the most fiendish pirates of Agate Star area would never initially provoke them. Their battleships could travel safely between star areas. Even in the Shadow Ghostly Prison, which was the most chaotic area, they could cross it smoothly and safely. The Potion and Tool Pavilion was indeed a unique organization in Agate Star area. The other forces always liked them the most. Hearing the other say that he belonged to Potion and Tool Pavilion, Shi Yang, who was about to move alone, relaxed, nodded and smiled friendly. "Oh, thank you very much." Then, when the middle-aged man opened the barrier, Shi Yang jumped with him onto the massive battleship and landed on the main deck. The ship's deck was cold and firm. It was built of blocks of strange metal. Each block was about 10 square meters. Many security guards of Potion and Tool Pavilion scattered here and there, controlling powerful energy artilleries. Although they saw Shi Yang landing, they didn't change their faces and continued guarding their positions. "Brother, you are cultivating space power, right?" The middle-aged man smiled, inviting, "Are you interested in joining our Potion and Tool Pavilion? We always welcome warriors with space power." Shi Yang was astounded. He now understood why this man invited him on board. He knew that Shi Yang cultivated space power Upanishad. Chapter 975, Fu Wei. Chapter 975, Fu Wei. "Oh, I'm sorry. Currently, I have no intention to join any force." Shi Yang shook his head and denied resolutely. However, he asked earnestly, "How did you know I was cultivating space power Upanishad?" Agate Star area was a high-class star area. It had an explicit category for powers Upanishads. According to their description, they had hundreds of power Upanishads, which could outnumber the number of clans in Agate Star area. Space power Upanishads could be deemed a heavenly one. It was hard to obtain and cultivate. Warriors couldn't find any scripture or inheritance source related to this power Upanishad in big auction houses. Warriors who could obtain space power Upanishad all had it by lucky chance. There was no school that taught this power. Also, no precedent of taking this power from a source of power Upanishad inheritance was recorded. It was not easy to recognize the special powers Upanishads even when a higher realm warrior tried to sense the lower realm warrior. Oh, it was when your soul consciousness contacted our barrier. Haha, our barrier is a bit special. It can distinguish kinds of power. The middle-aged man explained, that barrier can identify the nature of power in soul consciousness and the real realm of the warrior. Little brother, you're at second sky of original God realm, but you're still pretty young. Your innate endowment is rare and excellent, indeed. Shi Yang was shaken as he had another level of understanding of Potion and Tool Pavilion's awesomeness. Brother, you may want to consider my offer a bit more. People with space power are rare. It's the same in Agate Star area. Brother, warriors at your level are also extremely rare and precious. Pausing for a while, he continued, anyway, our Potion and Tool Pavilion has an elder cultivating space power Upanishad. He has reached third sky of ethereal God realm. Our Potion and Tool Pavilion also has many books and scriptures about space power Upanishad. We got them through our channels. Shi Yang's eyes brightened. Space power Upanishad books were extremely rare and precious. It meant nothing to other warriors, but to warriors who cultivated space power, it was hard to describe how precious they were to them. At least in Grace Mainland and Raging Flamestar he had never seen any book about space power Upanishad. Shi Yang knew the value of those books to him. How much do you want for them? Hesitating for a while, his interest was aroused. He was a little excited. Shaking his head with a smile, the middle-aged man with smallpox bumps looked at him deep in the eye and explained, no, we don't sell them. No matter how much you pay, we won't sell them. If you didn't cultivate space power, I wouldn't babble about it. Of course, if you join us, little brother, we will let you assess them when you have a specific position. Shi Yang was surprised and he frowned in silence. Well, you can consider a little more, the middle-aged was generous. He said seriously, our Potion and Tool Pavilion has strict rules in recruiting. It's not easy to join us anyway. Once you've entered Potion and Tool Pavilion, you are aloof to other forces in Agate Star area. No other forces can threaten you. You can focus on your cultivation and you can use our materials and resources freely. To many warriors, joining Potion and Tool Pavilion is always a big dream. Brother, think about it. You don't need to make a rash decision immediately. After he said that, he nodded and smiled at him before leaving. Shi Yang sat down quietly. Looking at the immense star sea, he kept silent. In the center of the battleship, the ring of the beautiful lady radiated strangely and unceasingly. Ancient and shattered books were lined up in front of her. She was holding one of them and reading it dedicatedly. The old woman hunched, standing by her and looking at her with a loving countenance. She didn't disturb the young girl. Chirp, chirp. A series of low chirping sounds came from a small octagonal formation on the left side of the young woman. That octagonal formation was made of unknown materials. However, it looked like a cattail leaf cushion. At this moment, it was emitting white light. The woman dropped the book she was reading and frowned at the octagonal formation. A thought shot out, pouring into the eye of the formation. Quickly, many books flew out of that formation. Those books were written in many languages. Apparently, they weren't from the same race. Her delicate fingers flickered and gathered some books. The octagonal formation dimmed out, resuming its original state. Young elder, all the books you've required to be sent from the headquarters are related to the canon. Are you going to find it? The old woman kept silent for a while. Seeing her master stop reading her books, she said softly, the canon has been lost for tens of thousands of years. There are many rumors about it. Records of the canon are vague. There is no direction that leads to it. Many elders of our pavilion have tried for many years. Young elder, if you invest your effort into this, I'm afraid you're doing things in vain. The woman arranged her shattered books neatly. She sighed reluctantly. Right, I have no clue. I've read 32 documents related to the canon. Anyway, each of them is vague. They say that the canon is mysterious, but none of them mention the mysteries of it or why it has gone missing. Anton, you've been in the pavilion for thousands of years. Do you know anything related to the canon? The old woman named Anton frowned, sinking in her memories. After a long time, she said softly, tens of thousands of years ago, our pavilion master appeared in Agate Star area. With the canon, he established potion and tool pavilion, gathering alchemists and blacksmiths from Agate Star area. He set up rules and made potion and tool pavilion a neutral force that stayed aloof from other forces. After the first pavilion master established potion and tool pavilion, he grew old and deceased after hundreds of years. His soul vanished. After his death, people started to fight each other for the master position. The canon went missing in that chaotic time. Rumor says that one of the elders took risks and took it away. That elder disappeared from that time. We have never figured out where he had gone. Although the second pavilion master won and claimed the throne in glory, he had used all his means and efforts to search for the canon in vain. It has been dozens of thousands of years and we now have the fourth pavilion master. Potion and tool pavilion has earned a special position in Agate Star area. We have insiders in every corner of the star area, but we still have no clue of the canon. Our pavilion has spent tens of thousands of years fruitlessly. I think young elder shouldn't waste your effort in this. There is no guarantee that you can find it if you invest more efforts. Everything depends on fortune. Anton looked at the young woman gingerly. She had kindly advised her as she was afraid that the young woman would spend time in this hopeless matter. She had watched this young lady grow. She knew her innate talents and competence. She was a candidate for the position of the fifth pavilion master. If she focused, her party could reach the peak of glory through this young lady. They would have supreme power in the pavilion. But if the girl had set her mind on something vague like the canon, it could be a flame that burns down the hope of precursors in their party. The first pavilion master said in his will that the one who had the canon would become the new pavilion master. If we found the canon, it'd be much easier, said the young lady softly. Anton shook her head miserably. It's not that easy. If we could find it effortlessly, the canon would have been found already. The young woman kept quiet, sighing inwardly. She said nothing else. Looking at the shattered books, she suddenly felt bored. Young elder, Fongan invited a junior on board. Fongan said that he cultivates space power Upanishad. His attainment is quite remarkable. A warrior with space power Upanishad? The woman's brow twitched. She seemed interested in the newcomer. Uncle Duo asked us to pay attention to warriors who cultivate space power. If we meet someone like that, we must try to recruit him. Uncle Duo is at third sky of ethereal god realm and his attainment in space power Upanishad is high. However, he can't cover all the small formations. He needs an assistant. Does that man meet Uncle Duo's requirements? According to Fongan, he's suitable for this position. Anton nodded, but he said he wasn't interested. The young woman was surprised. Our offers aren't good enough. Did Fongan tell him we have books of space power Upanishad and that we have Uncle Duo, a third sky of ethereal god realm warriors who cultivate space power? He told him. Anton beamed a forced smile. I'm going to talk to him myself. The young woman stood up. Her hand drew a curve in the air and the books disappeared into the ring on her bright-skinned wrist. She got out of the center cabin of the battleship, sauntering towards Shi Yang. In a remote corner of the battleship, Shi Yang was closing his eyes, concentrating on recovering his energy. Energy in the divine crystals he was holding was drawn gradually. He suddenly retrieved the divine crystals and lifted his head to look. A lady wearing a loose dress, which dragged along on the ground, and small accessories, was walking towards him as if she was a fairy gliding in the air. His eyes suddenly sparkled with bright light as he observed the small accessories on her body. He was astounded, indeed. Shi Yang was also a blacksmith. His level in forging things could save him from embarrassing himself. So he had some keen eyes in this aspect. The young lady wore dozens of small items such as jade hairpins, rings, some pieces of jade embroidered on the hem of her dress, and more. Each of them had hidden energy moving inside. Shi Yang was sure that they were fabricated exquisitely with complex formations and barriers. Sensing for a while, Shi Yang was sure that the dozens of small accessories on her body were all secret treasures at divine grade. This discovery frightened him. He became stern. He didn't know what status this wealthy woman held in Potion and Tool Pavilion, but the guards along her way had shown her respect as if she was the commander of this battleship. Shi Yang became more cautious. "I'm Fu Wei, the youngest among the 12 elders of Potion and Tool Pavilion." The woman came agilely. She introduced herself tenderly. While she was walking, her accessories jingled like a murmuring stream in the mountain. Her eyes were as deep and blue as the ocean. Shi Yang stood up quietly and nodded to her. "I am Shi Yang. On behalf of Potion and Tool Pavilion, I officially invite you to join us. As long as you nod your head, I'll arrange everything properly for you. I'll appoint you an assistant to a warrior who is at third sky of ethereal god realm and cultivates space power Upanishad. You will be able to access all books and scriptures about space power. Lord Duo will also teach you the essence of space power Upanishad. What do you think?" Fu Wei extended her olive branch to him. She was speaking softly but seriously to him. She was confident that Shi Yang wouldn't turn her down. "I'm sorry. I don't want to join Potion and Tool Pavilion," said Shi Yang calmly, shaking his head. Fu Wei was astonished. Chapter 976, Devil Bloodstar. Chapter 976, Devil Bloodstar. The center of the unknown, mysterious power Upanishad had many different bright currents of powers Upanishad. They looked like energy rivers crossing and flowing around the world as they followed some kind of movement principles. Two souls were wandering in there like ghosts. They swayed and moved unconsciously and aimlessly. One of the two souls would stop by an open space door. Then, it would inch forward strenuously between the currents of fierce space energy. They were Shi Yang's host soul and co-soul. Since he had escaped the space crack, every time he meditated to understand his powers Upanishad further, his co-soul would be directed to that strange area. A warrior who was fused with heaven flames and occupied the origin could enter that place to study the true essence of his or her powers Upanishad. Thus, after his soul had been washed crystal clear, he could go to this place simply as long as he flickered his mind. He could stay in the center to perceive a deeper understanding of his powers. However, his body was still sitting on the deck of Potion and Tool Pavilion's gigantic battleship. He sat impassively as if he didn't have a soul. No soul energy rippled or fluctuated from him. Fu Wei was the owner of this impressive battleship. She was the youngest elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion. Shi Yang's objection had failed her, but she didn't keep it in her mind. However, she was curious about Shi Yang. Potion and Tool Pavilion was the most special force of Agate Star area. It stayed aloofly from other forces. However, it was welcomed and favored by dominant forces and mighty clans. This organization had accumulated an enormous fortune that even Fu Wei didn't completely know. The status of Potion and Tool Pavilion in Agate Star area made countless warriors try their best to find a way to join them. Fu Wei always thought that no one would reject the pavilion's invitation. Especially a warrior cultivating space power Upanishad. They had books of space power Upanishad in their library. They had the strongest warrior who cultivated space power at third sky of ethereal god realm. They had all sorts of support to help warriors cultivating this power. Shi Yang denied her offer. Fu Wei couldn't understand it at all. She didn't know Shi Yang's identity either. Potion and Tool Pavilion had ears and eyes everywhere. They knew everything that happened in every corner of Agate Star area. Potion and Tool Pavilion had a detailed list of hotshots of all clans and forces, even the list of potential experts. Since Fu Wei was skeptical, she used the satellite eyes of her Potion and Tool Pavilion to search. However, she couldn't identify Shi Yang. This discovery had baffled Fu Wei even more. A bright blue mirror hung on the central cabin of the battleship that projected Shi Yang's image. He was idly sitting cross-legged. There was no sound or energy fluctuation around him. Fu Wei's crescent moon brows furrowed. Her beautiful face mulled on her thought, but still, she looked mesmerizing. The old woman she called aunt and was standing by her. She was a little hunched. She also looked at the cold, stern, young man in the mirror skeptically. After a while, she whispered, "This man came from an unknown origin. Even our satellite eyes couldn't identify him. It's a bit over our estimation. Young elder, do you think he's from another star area?" Fu Wei woke up from her contemplation. Her blue eyes twinkled magnificently. She cried tenderly, "It's possible." Anton looked a little shocked. Shadow Ghostly Prison is the space hub. It has many unstable space channels. If he comes from another star area, it's possible that he came here through Shadow Ghostly Prison. Pausing for a while, she smiled and suggested, "Do you want to start from there?" Fu Wei shook her head. "No, it's not necessary. Although Lord Duo wants to find an assistant quickly, he has rejected our offer. We don't need to force him. It's tough to deal with unidentified people. If he does come from another star area, it may be harmful to us if we offend him." "Yes, right," Anton nodded. "But it's regretful anyway. It's hard to find a suitable candidate. But he doesn't put our potion and tool pavilion in his eyes. Sigh, I don't know when we can meet another warrior using space power. We're about to arrive at Devil Bloodstar." Fu Wei rose one of her delicate fingers, touching the void. The bright mirror floating above her head shrank into a piece of broken jade. It was hung on her generous hip. It became an everyday accessory. "Oh right, we're about to reach Devil Bloodstar." Anton smiled and bent her body slightly. "I'm going to arrange things." She immediately left with caution. Fu Wei didn't answer. She mulled over her thoughts that the other didn't know. Boom! A violent shake came from the bottom of the battleship. The ship trembled hard before it could steady. Shi Yang woke up from his fairyland trip-like cultivation. The two souls returned to his soul altar. He looked at the guards but said nothing. He stood up and went to one side of the deck to take a look. In front of him was an endless forest with towering, ancient trees. Earth and heaven energy here was as thick as cotton clouds that naked eyes could see. They drifted in the sky, creating a sea of energy. The dense demon chi that the soul could recognize fluctuated everywhere in this forest. It swayed continually like the seaweed in the sea. The gigantic battleship landed stably. The wet ground suddenly cracked and members of Demon Clan living underground emerged. They seemed to have received the news earlier. They were calling and cheering to welcome young elder Fu Wei of Potion and Tool Pavilion. War chariots about a few dozens of meters long flew out from the massive battleship. Their engines hissed in the void. They aligned like asteroids in the sky, operating in a general direction. Each war chariot was filled with piles of exotic cultivating materials. Potion and Tool Pavilion came to Devil Bloodstar this time to transport cultivating materials that they had ordered. Since the quantity was enormous, Fu Wei had delivered the order personally to show respect to Blood Devil. Besides her massive delivery, Fu Wei also came to do accounting and further discuss with Blood Devil for their future business. Potion and Tool Pavilion had a cumbersome structure. The elders of the pavilion had followed different forces. Fu Wei was the representative for one of the forces. Blood Devil was one of their important customers. If they could form a good relationship with Blood Devil, it would be critical to their force. Looking at the war chariots flying away, Fongan with his smallpox bumps came to Shi Yang. He beamed a professional, business-like smile. "Little brother, our young elder has advised us. If you change your mind, you can contact Potion and Tool Pavilion at any time. We will treat you well." Shi Yang didn't change his countenance. He smiled, nodded, and said, "Thank you." He jumped up, flashed, and left the battleship to another area of the forest. Fongan looked at Shi Yang disappearing and sighed reluctantly. Oh, he was such a good seed. A huge meteorite was flying quickly toward the border of Agate Star area. The giants, Fei Lan, and Leona's team were based on two sides of the rock. In the vast universe, this rock was moving fast unceasingly like a meteor. In the center of the meteorite sat the mother formation of the mother and child sky linking formation that Na Shin had brought from Broken Star Field. Next to the formation was a pool where thousand-fold lotuses were floating. This pool was covered by a beautiful five-colored cage. The meteorite didn't have earth and heaven energy. The giants, Fei Lan, Leona, Long Zhu, Yun Hao, and the others had to use divine crystals to cultivate. Until now, they had used up almost all the divine crystals that they had traded that year. If they used up all the divine crystals and didn't find a suitable life star to stay, their cultivation had to be suspended. Divine crystals on the mother formation still had a moving halo. Zhen Jiyu, the current patriarch of the giant tribe, Ka Tuor, Yun Hao, Long Zhu, and the others were looking at several dozen divine crystals inlaid in the mother formation, their faces complicated. We can't touch these divine crystals. Ka Tuor wore a cold and harsh face, gazing at Zhen Jiyu, Yun Hao, and the others. He said, "When my senior escapes, he will definitely contact us. Without these divine crystals, we will lose the connection with him utterly, but we're about to use up the divine crystals. There is no life stars around or earth and heaven energy. We can't continue our cultivation. Our realm and power will decrease." Zhen Jiyu sighed and then said, "These dozens of thousands of divine crystals here are our last hope. Shi Yang hasn't contacted us for dozens of years. Perhaps he has fallen. How can we count on him?" 32 years, Long Zhu shook his head miserably. "If he's been alive, he should have contacted us a long time ago." "He's all right," Yang Zhuo of the Yang family said with a dark face. "Wait for him more. If we use the divine crystals of the formation, we will lose contact with him. Without him, we will lose our hope of living in Agate Star area. We giants don't object if you want to wait for more," Zhen Jiyu frowned, "but we don't want to wait in misery for an endless amount of time. We want to use the divine crystals on the mother formation. We can break through and then we can find a suitable life star to stay." This rock came from Broken Star Field. When they escaped Old Orchid Star, they found this meteorite moving toward a remote area of Agate Star area. All of them then got on the rock. This meteorite was big enough to carry all of them. It was flying away from the far west region and even Agate Star area. It was still heading to the other end of the star area. In the beginning, they felt very lucky. They were lucky that the forces of the far west region couldn't chase after them. However, as time went by, this rock had moved further to the most rural and remote area of the life star. They didn't see any life star, mineral star, or even a dead star on the way. Gradually, they couldn't even see asteroids when there should have been a lot. This rose reluctance and despair in their hearts. Until they had finally recognized the situation, they were somewhere at the edge of Agate Star area where there were no residential areas. They didn't know where they were, either. At this moment, their divine crystals had almost run out, which made them restlessly terrified. Ka Tuor and Zhen Jiyu had started to quarrel whether to use the divine crystals on the mother formation or not. Many warriors from Grace Mainland and Bai Tian's group of Raging Flamestar area thought that Zhengu's idea was logical. They didn't have any news from Shi Yang for 32 years. He didn't contact them through the mother formation. They thought Shi Yang had bad fortune and might be gone already. Compared to waiting in vain, it was better to use the divine crystals to secure their powers and find a life star to stay. When their quarrel was fiercest, Feng Rao standing by the mother formation suddenly shivered. Her voice trembled as she said, It works. It has activated." Feng Rao's eyes became watery. Chapter 977, Reunion. Chapter 977, Reunion. Looking at the muscular creature slowly walking out of the mother formation, tears rolled down on Feng Rao's face uncontrollably. She felt her bitter sorrow that had accumulated over the years burst out all of a sudden. 32 years had passed. To some people, it was just a moment, but to others, it was like the eternal night without a beam of light, sinking people in only pain and sorrow. Feng Rao thought Shi Yang had fallen, and his soul seal was eradicated. She thought she would never meet him again. But when she felt the most helpless, the mother formation was activated, and Shi Yang walked out of the formation alone. The familiar face, his familiar aura, his body. Everything was just like yesterday. Feng Rao stooped and cried. Zhenji Yu of the giant tribe quieted down. He used his soul message to call tribal oldie Na Xin. Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor got up, focusing on the man who had just arrived without moving. Yang Zhuo of the Yang family, Long Zhu, Yun Hao, Bai Tian, Alchemist Jester, Cao Qiu Dao, and Tang Yuan Nan were all shocked. They all gazed at the man who had just come through the formation. At this moment, they knew how important this young man was to them. No one could compare with him. Shi Yang looked at the vague, vast universe, sending his soul consciousness around. He nodded tenderly. You're all here. It's good. It's really good. People then smiled. Shortly after, Giant Na Xin came hurriedly, his face excited. I didn't think you would still be alive. Of course, I'm alive, Shi Yang smiled casually. Do I look like someone who would die young? Na Xin was a little embarrassed. It's good that you're all right. Yeah, I feel so happy. People started to gather. They were from the Raging Flame Star area and the Grace mainland, together with the giants. Arriving from different corners of the meteorolite, they didn't say anything and just looked at him as if they were looking forward to seeing a new life. Thousands of people had gathered. They all studied Shi Yang, who smiled naturally. Much better than what I had imagined. Shi Yang thought that after the catastrophe burst out in the Far West region, his friends and family in Old Orchid Star wouldn't be able to escape. At the moment he activated the formation, his hands had shivered as he expected the worst situation. He hadn't expected everyone to still be alive. Although their current condition wasn't good, as long as their souls were still there, they could overturn any bad situation. Staying alive was more important than anything else. Yang Zhuo came over, patting Shi Yang's shoulder. Then, he told him things they had experienced throughout those years. Shi Yang listened to him. When Yang Zhuo finished, Shi Yang smiled happily. Then, he looked at the 1,000-fold lotuses which had moved here with their own pool. He frowned, extending his hand to collect them. Each flower flew out of the pool, disappearing into the blue jar. Everybody looked at him in silence, not disturbing him. After a long time, he handed Na Xin several jars while smiling. As our deal, these 1,000-fold lotuses belong to the giants. Na Xin didn't refuse as he stashed them away and asked, what should we do now? This place was a remote area by the edge of the agate star area, without life stars or earth and heaven energy. It wasn't a place suitable for warriors. If they couldn't get rid of this place, they would have to use their energy to endure day after day. After a while, their realm would even decrease. We're getting out of here. I've found a new place for you to stay and cultivate at. Shi Yang pondered for a while and then advised, we'll move all people and things. While he was talking, divine crystals flew out of his ring, flying like raindrops on the mother formation. The mother and child sky linking formation needed divine crystals as fuel. It would require a significant amount of divine crystals to move all people here. The divine crystals inlaid on the formation now wasn't enough to endure until their immigration finished. Na Xin and Leona nodded. Yang Zhuo immediately ordered his fellows, asking them to gather with their properties. Shortly, thousands of people gathered by the mother formation, as Shi Yang directed them to move through the light door. Divine Crystal's energy was soon drained as time flew by slowly. After an unknown time, most of the people on the meteorolite were gone. Now, only Na Xin, Leona, and Fei Lan were standing by Shi Yang. What do you want to do to this mother formation? Na Xin frowned. At this moment, Na Xin had reached the third sky of ethereal god realm. The inheritance he got from the Grace mainland and the cultivating materials from Ari Fu in Broken Star City had helped him break through again after 32 years of ascetic cultivation. Fei Land had also reached the second sky of ethereal god realm. She had made new achievements in condensing her ethereal extent. Leona was at the first sky of ethereal god realm, while Ka-Tuor was at the third sky of original God realm. After 32 years, they had all advanced thanks to the benefit they received from Shiyang. What to do with it? Shiyang pondered for a while and then said, "You guys should go first. I'm going to seal the mother formation, so other people can't use it to track us down." This place was already isolated. It was far away from the agate star area, and the meteorolite was still moving at breakneck speed. The mother formation could connect to the child formation. When they all left, the mother formation would stay in this meteorolite. It was hard to tell if the rock would move to somewhere and someone would find it. That person could then use the mother formation to come to Devil Bloodstar and find Shiyang's group. It was hard to predict indeed. Only warriors who cultivated space power at Shiyang's level could seal the mother formation. To ensure their safety, Shiyang would use space power to seal the mother formation. Na Xin and the others nodded, then entered the center of mother formation one by one under Shiyang's watch. Eventually, besides Shiyang, there was no aura of living beings on this huge meteorolite, which was still moving fast in the infinite universe. This rock had detached from the broken star field. Being blown away by some unknown force, it headed to somewhere no one knew of. Perhaps, it would impact the barrier between star areas, being crushed into pieces of stone. Probably, it would become a smaller meteor, piercing through the star area barrier and turning into a meteor that fell into another star area. Shiyang quietly watched the stars around him and contemplated for a while before entering the mother formation. The light on the mother formation shrank as the entire formation was sealed. It looked like it had disappeared from this massive rock, becoming a part of it without any distinctive energy fluctuation that people could sense. Once this meteorolite exploded, the mother formation would be obliterated. However, if this meteorolite were still intact, one day when Shiyang was backed into a corner, he could use the child formation to escape a deadly pursuit. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The light expanded on the child formation. Shiyang got out and then waved his hand to retrieve the child formation into his fantasy sky ring. Giant trees with big branches towered the place, shielding off the light. However, there were still some sunbeams stubborn enough to pierce through the thick leaves and branches, shining on the wet ground of the forest. Tens of thousands of warriors gathered, looking at Shiyang. They saw him retrieve the formation and then close his eyes, sinking into his thoughts. After a while, Shiyang took a deep breath, giving a broad smile while talking. "This is the Devil Bloodstar, the territory of Demon Clan. I've just been here lately, but I think we can stay here." Na Xin's eyes brightened as he screamed, unable to help himself. "Devil Bloodstar. It's the Devil Bloodstar." Devil Bloodstar was very famous in the Agate Star area. It was a level 7 life star, with the thickest earth and heaven energy. This star was guarded by an expert at the second sky of incipient God realm. Although the Agate Star area was vast, Devil Bloodstar was famous for its wealth. And, Blood Devil's reputation was echoed everywhere in this star area. It was no doubt that staying in Devil Bloodstar and cultivating here was the best dream they could ever have. During the days of moving aimlessly in the infinite universe, they had wished for even a level 1 or 2 life star to take shelter. It was the best they could hope for. But today, Shiyang brought them to Devil Bloodstar, the most famous life star in the entire Agate Star area. How could they not crack up in thrill? "Of course, I haven't connected with Blood Devil yet. For the time being, you guys shouldn't scatter. Wait until I've arranged everything properly." Shiyang contemplated for a while and then said, "Stay put in this forest. Don't mess around. I'm going to see if I can contact Wu Lan or not." Leona, Fei Lan, and Ka-Tuor had their eyes brightened. They knew Wu Lan was a subordinate of Blood Devil. They thought Blood Devil and Shiyang had some lineage. And, in this vast star area, Blood Devil didn't have any fellow from his tribe. Thus, he would favor Shiyang, his new fellow who had appeared all of a sudden. Listening to him, the other three nodded as they could ease their mind. But, Na Xin and the giants didn't know of his relationship with Wu Lan. Listening to him, they were actually a bit worried. Blood Devil was infamous indeed. His brutal name had spread even to the rural areas like the Far West region. After Shin reached the third sky of ethereal god realm, he had become more cautious. He was worried if Blood Devil's troops would come and attack them. And his worry came true shortly after. A troop of around 100 demon soldiers had sensed the commotion inside the forest. They rode the white bone war chariots, roaring in the sky. This forest was in the northwest of Devil Bloodstar, and didn't have many visitors generally. So, when the patrol team found around tens of thousands of unidentified creatures here all of a sudden, it scared the patrol leader a lot. This area was his scope of patrolling, and this sudden situation was strange. If something unexpected happened, he wouldn't be able to get rid of trouble. The squad of 100 demon soldiers rode the Whitebone war chariots. The troopers came from different branches of Demon Clan, including Black-Scaled Tribe, Dragon-Horned Tribe, Winged Clan, One-Eyed Tribe, etc. Those tribes used to appear in the Grace mainland. However, there were more clansmen they had never seen before. Those clansmen had horns or rock-like skin, while some had more limbs than normal people. The patrol leader of this squad was a dragon-horned man at the first sky of ethereal god realm, called Wu Deng. Wu Deng sat alone on a white bone war chariot, which had a lot of broken bones hung on it. He stood up, observing the shadows in the forest. His face grimaced as he asked, "Who are you? Daring to invade the Devil Bloodstar? Don't you know whose territory it is? Capture them all." The war chariots roared and scattered, surrounding this large group of people. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.